Today we're going to talk about my most favourite thing in the whole wide world. Not Dr. Pepper. Pretty Cure. So I'm going to answer some questions about the series that I keep getting, and I'm going to walk through all 20 seasons, which in hindsight is a really bad idea. I could be sat here for like hours going on about this show and how much I love it and all of my thoughts on every season. And you know, I'm going to sit here and do that because I'm super devoted to the cause being talking about magical girls and spreading my propaganda. So I've got a cup of tea and I've got a Google Doc full of thoughts about all 20 seasons. So let's get into it, starting with the first season. No, let's get into it, starting with some questions about the franchise that I feel like I need to answer for people who don't know anything about the franchise. So, what is Pretty Cure? I get this one from my friends so much because nobody else watches it. I have like 2 friends who watch Pretty Cure, and I don't know how to explain it because it's huge. There's 20 seasons of it now, and it's been going for 20 years nearly. And whenever my friends are like, so what exactly is it about? I'm like, like they fight aliens and stuff. But it's like, it's so much deeper than that. And like the most simple surface level way I can explain it to anyone without going into too much depth is like, hey, you know Power Rangers? Well, like, think of that, but it's animated and it's girly. That is the essence of it on surface level. But it's like, it's about so much more than just fighting the bad guys. It's about like the stories of light versus dark, and it's about stories of friendship and love, and like how optimism and positivity always win, and how important friendship is. Like, I cannot stress that enough. It is a series about the power of friendship. There are so many lessons about the importance of love and friendship, and how like overlooking it is a mistake, basically. Like, I cannot count how many episodes basically boil down to, hey, have you just maybe considered being a better friend? Or hey, have you like maybe considered taking this person's feeling? That's like, I feel like I'm just repeating the same thing, but there's so many morals to be taken away. It's a show for little kids, okay? And so something I love in kids shows is when they don't take the audience as being stupid. They understand that kids are people and they're going to grow up to become adults one day. And that something that the writers understand is what a core part of growing up, like media we consume as children, and this sounds really silly, but like the amount of people who grow up and the things they grew up with as kids like sort of stick with them forever. Like, my parents have things from their generation that have stuck with them forever, and like me as a 25-year-old, like things like Pokemon and Sailor Moon and Tokyo Mew Mew have stuck with me all through my life because those were like sort of a core part of my life as a kid, and I learnt so many things and I grew up alongside these franchises. And now, like, as an adult, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about the world from growing up with these franchises and these stories and these characters. And it's such a shame we don't have Pretty Cure in the West, like, as it is. Like, we got Glitter Force, which is something I'll go into in a minute, but the fact that Pretty Cure was not serialized in the West as it was in Japan every year is a crime. Like, I say this about like a lot of kids shows that I watch, like Ojimaju Doremi. I've been really into that lately, and it's just something I think kids need. It's fantastic. Like, I could talk about this for ages, but kids need more stuff like Pretty Cure in their lives. It's targeted for like really little kids, like preschoolers to like 10-year-olds, I guess. And there's just so much you can learn from this series. I think that's something, like, even as an adult, I watch it and I can enjoy it because I feel like I'm learning things. Like, and there's things I wouldn't have thought about, like about the world and about other people, and I feel like I learn a lot through the characters. And yeah. So anyway, so yeah, it's a magical girl show. It's about friendship, it's about fighting the bad guys, it's about understanding each other, it's about being kind. So the next question I get a lot is, which series do you start with? Because obviously there's like 20 seasons. But this is my favourite thing about the franchise, is that you can, in theory, give or take a few seasons, you can jump on anywhere. You can pick a season that you like the look of, and you can just start with that. And it doesn't matter how much you know, if you can just pick it up. And it's the same sort of formula every season, like with Power Rangers. Like, if you watch Power Rangers as a kid, you'll know it doesn't matter where you pick up. Every season is the same sort of formula, but with like a different kind of concept and a different bunch of characters. And I think it's great that they do the same thing every year but keep it fresh. They find a way to like turn the sort of themes on their head every year. They find a way to explore the characters, even though the characters follow the same kind of tropes most years. They find different ways to explore the characters and bring out the best in them and make them feel alive. There is a character in this series for everyone. Really, the only seasons you can't start on at all are the sequels. They only ever made 2 sequels as of right now. We've got a couple of sequels coming up in the future, but again, that's something I'll get into later. So you cannot start with Max Heart or Yes 5 Go Go. These are like direct sequels to their predecessors. And they're the only seasons that have sequels at the moment, which is really bizarre. I don't know why they decided to give sequels back in the day, but it's just something that happens in classic Precure. To be fair, now that I've seen all of the seasons, I will say you don't need a super deep understanding of the original seasons to watch the sequels. Sorry, I've got really bad hay fever. I'm really bunged up. But obviously, because they're sequels, it would just make sense to watch them after you've watched the original series and you understand the characters and the story and what they've been through. Personally, I would say my most starter-friendly seasons, I keep a list of these because I like recommending them to people. So ones I really, really recommend as a starting point for new fans would be Smile. This is this was my first season. It's a super duper fun one. It's really funny, it's bright and colourful. It kind of really encapsulates what Precure is about for me. There's a really good memorable cast of characters and villains, and there is a dub. There is a dub in English or your chosen language on Netflix. It's been really given the 4Kids treatment. It's called Glitter Force, and it's super controversial amongst the fan base because everyone hates it, apart from me, by the sounds of it. I know it could be better, and it's going to be really controversial of me to defend it, but at the end of the day, it's a dub for little kids in the West. It's not got the exact same target audience as it would in Japan. And a lot of people's issues with the dub is that it does cut out a lot of the cultural references, and like obviously the characters have all been renamed for a Western audience. So like Miyuki has become Emily, Yayoi has become Lily, Reika is Chloe, now is April, and I cannot remember what Kyosani is called. I can't remember what she's called in Japanese, and I can't remember what Kelsey. She was called Kelsey in the English one. So, she's a forgettable character to me, I'm sorry. So, obviously, like, a lot of the issue stems from the fact that this is, like, a lot of people say this is, like, whitewashing. And, yeah, obviously it sucks that they have erased a lot of the cultural references, they changed all the names and stuff. And it came out in 2016, so like really in this day and age when anime is becoming more popular in the West and kids are getting more into it because like they've got unrestricted internet access and they go on TikTok and see all this sort of stuff. It's weird to me that they still feel the need to like 4Kidsify like kids anime. So like I don't take a lot of issue with it purely because if you're like a little 5-year-old kid and you're watching Glitter Force, are you more likely to remember the name Miyuki or Emily? Let's be real. Obviously I know like a lot of the whitewashing in 4Kids dubs stems from like the good old xenophobia of the early 2000s. But like at the end of the day, like it just helps the kids remember the names. And yeah, the cultural stuff sucks. Like, I cannot defend that. Like, the episode in the original, they went to Kyoto on a school trip, and like that's like one of my favorite tropes in anime, because it makes me feel really nostalgic for Kyoto, because I went there on a trip once myself, and it really sucked that like they couldn't just acknowledge that the show was set in Japan. They had to go, oh, we're going to this expo that's like really conveniently like got life-size recreations of all these Japanese landmarks. It was super weird to me. Like, I don't know, man, just say they're in the place. It's not that hard. And like, I'm not going to keep going on about it because I could be here for ages talking about the pros and cons of like dubbing kids anime. But I don't know, we need Precure in the West. Oh my god, I went totally off topic. So my starter-friendly series, Smile. Yeah, Smile is a great one to watch, especially if you've got younger siblings and you want to get them into it, because that's how I got into it. I watched it with my little sister. That's a story for a different video. I'm staying on track. Star Twinkle is a super popular series. It's really, really fantastically themed. There's so much. I rewatched it recently and like, wow, I forgot how good it is. The characters are great. The story's great. It's a real starter-friendly one. I've got a friend who's just gotten into the franchise. She's watching Star Twinkle. She thinks it's great. So there you go. Actual proven evidence that it's a good starter series. Tropical Rouge is another one I really recommend if you want to get into the series. It's the one that got me to finally start watching every week. I like vaguely followed the franchise, and then when Tropical Rouge came out, I was so in love with the concept and the characters, I just had to follow it every week, and then it kind of spiraled from there. The characters, again, it's a comedy-based series, but it has like some real like emotional gut punch moments. It has really good villains, really good characters. Those are probably my top 3 for getting into the franchise. If you want to get into the franchise the old-fashioned way, then maybe start with Futari wa, and then just go from there, I guess. That's the classic one. Whew. I'm taking a sip of tea from my sister's Precure mug. Last place I'd say is a good one to start with is whatever season is currently airing. This is something I tell people all the time, that whenever a new season starts, I'm like, hey guys, it's a good time to like jump onto Precure if you're interested in it. But this year in particular is a fantastic time to jump onto the current season. It's the 20th anniversary, where there's like a ton of cool stuff happening for it right now, and the current season is fantastic. I'll talk about it at the end of the video when I actually get to talking to that season. I think that's probably all the questions really I need to answer about the series before going into it. So let's start off with my thoughts on every season. So we're going to start with... So, Futari wa Precure, or the two of us are Precure, as it's like really loosely translated to. Or is it like the two are it's something like that. It is the first ever series. It came out in 2004. It's about Honoka and Nagisa. They are 2 girls who are like complete opposites. That was like the gimmick of the series. Honoka is very pretty and quiet and smart. She's like a sciencey, brainiac-y kind of girl. She wears this little lab coat, which is really cute. And on the other hand, Nagisa is like tomboyish. She's sporty. She plays lacrosse, I think it is. I don't know the breeds of sport, so I could be wrong. She's quite brash, loud, and they have never spoken to each other. They're in the same class and they don't know each other very well at the start of the series. And then one day, the little Precure fairies come along, and like fate, they are brought together to become Precure and save the world from whatever the bad guys was. That they have to restore the gardens or something. Like, I'm gonna be real with you guys, like, I watched this one the most recently and I don't remember a great deal about it, because I watched 19 seasons. Well, I watched 18 seasons beforehand. This was my final season to watch, and I had seen the formula done so many times before. I watched Splash Star right before I watched this season, and I was like, you know what, this is kind of the exact same as Splash Star. So what I'm getting from this is maybe this is a season you should watch early on as opposed to the final season you watched, like I stupidly did. It's a cool concept, okay? It's the original Precure. Like, it's a lot more physical than like modern Precure. Like, this is a big debate online. I don't care, okay? That's my stance on the physical magical fighting debate. I don't care how they fight. I like Precure. The theme song, it is really iconic. It plays on loop in my head most days. The animation is super fun. Like, obviously 2004, it's a bit aged, but it's fantastic. Let's look at my fun notes and see what I had to say about this one. Yeah, there was a dub of this when I was a kid, and it aired on TV. So I'm gonna go a little bit off tangent here. I was a tiny little child, and back in the day we had a TV channel called Pop Girl, and it's really like a lot of lost media now. They aired like a lot of like stereotypically girly stuff. I think they showed Winx. They showed this show about horses that I hated because I don't like horses or horse girls. They showed the 4Kids dub of Tokyo Mew Mew, which was Mew Mew Power, and that was the best thing ever. That was where the magical girl obsession began. I watched Mew Mew Power because my best friend was really into it, and then she got me into it, and I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing I've ever watched. And we would play Mew Mew Power on the playground every day at school. Whenever we had sleepovers, we'd watch all the episodes together. We never got bored of it. We would rewatch, and they only dubbed half the series. They only dubbed like the first 25, 26 episodes. So like, we would just watch these like handful of episodes on repeat constantly and just not get tired of it. We thought it was the coolest thing ever. And annoyingly, like, in the time slots Mew Mew Power was on, there was Pretty Cure straight afterwards, and this channel absolutely sucked with advertising. So like, at the end of the show, you know when the TV show sort of splits in half and there's the credits rolling on one side, and on the other side of the screen they'll have like, up next is blah 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 blah. So like, usually they show like little video clip previews of what show is on next, right? But they just didn't. They just had like a little bit of text and Comic Sans like, hey, this is what's on next. And I was like, what the hell is a Pretty Cure? That sounds lame. Because I wasn't the most girly girl. And if you're going to call a show Pretty Cure and you're not going to advertise what it's about, I'm going to assume it's about like makeup or makeovers or something lame like that, okay? So I stupidly missed out on like one of the coolest shows in the world because the British TV decided not to advertise it, and that kind of blows for me. But I'm making up for it like, what, 19 years later. You can watch this legal. This is something I kind of overlooked at the start of the video. A question I get a lot is, where and how do you watch Pretty Cure? And that's the neat thing. Legally, it's really difficult to, especially here in the UK. So I know it's different all around the world. I'm pretty sure Crunchyroll has a few seasons in like maybe America and Australia, but here in the UK and Europe, we have 2 seasons of Precure. And Futari is one of the only seasons you can watch legally because that is on Crunchyroll. In like, it's weird because I'm sure I would assume that this show exists in like a remastered HD quality, but the copy they have on Crunchyroll is like, you know, I'm aging myself here, but do you remember back in the day, you'd watch YouTube anime, you'd watch the episodes split up into like 3 or 4 parts, and they'd be like 360p, and they would be really low res, and that's what Crunchyroll has. They have like, it's like it was ripped straight off the TV in 2004. They never bothered to get like a higher version of it. It's just, it's like it's an authentic experience in its defense, but it kind of sucks that they don't care enough to get a higher res version of it. The other season they have here in the UK is Kira Kira Precure a la mode. I'll get into that one later. I'm pretty sure America has like the newer seasons. I think they've got like Tropical Rouge. They might have Healing Good. They might have. I think they might be simulcasting Hirogaru Sky, but here in the UK we have nothing. So if you want to watch Precure, you have to use a third-party site, like I don't know, maybe WCO Stream. I don't know. Maybe GoGo Anime. I don't know. I don't condone piracy. Yeah, I do. Piracy is cool. Piracy is always ethical and moral and fine. But however, Precure is really important to me. I like to legally support it in any way I can. So I used Crunchyroll to watch A Mode and Futari. I care about this franchise. I want them to gain whatever they can. So I don't know, I watch it legally when I can. So it ethically it balances out. So like I said earlier, I watched this one at the very end of my Precure watching adventure. So I skipped a lot of Futari. I'm sorry. The problem with classic Precures is they're really good, but they are a little aged. They don't kind of grab me the way the modern ones do. They aren't bright, colourful and sparkly, and they're less like comedy heavy, I feel, and the art style being kind of like that early 2000s art style has never really appealed to me very much. I don't know, I can't explain it, the animation is like a lot blander. It's not as saturated, it's not as like fun and sparkly, and obviously like it's still enjoyable, but after watching all of the modern ones first, stupidly, going back to the start, I was kind of like, oh. And I don't know if I can say this early on in the video, but Futari and Splash Star are so similar. A fun thing I did to get me through the series a bit quicker was I went on to Wikipedia and I got the episode lists up and I read the descriptions of all the episodes, and I was sat there looking at some of them like, that exact thing happened in an episode of Splash Star. And I know like it's fine, they can repeat plots, I don't care, because obviously different characters will handle it different ways, but it's like Splash Star and Futari feel so similar to me, I just couldn't be bothered to sit through it twice. So I'm sorry to the people who like really love Futari. I wish I'd watched it earlier, but I just couldn't sit through all 100 episodes of this. Max Heart, again, I couldn't sit through all of it. Shiny Luminous is great. She's a really fun addition to the team. I love her so much. The writers, however, seem to not love her so much, and I think she deserved better than the way she was constantly like, apparently going to watch sports or something was more important than helping her fight the bad guys. Like, okay, yeah, you guys get your priorities straight. So a big thing in Precure is themes, and this couple of seasons don't really have a theme so much, so to say. Like in the later seasons there is a title theme and that whole series will revolve around the theme, and they didn't have themes back in classic Precure. Like the first maybe 5-6 seasons didn't really do that as much as the more recent ones do. Like Go Princess is like one of the really heavy themed seasons that come to mind. Like they wear princess dresses, they go to princess school, they have power-ups that make their dresses even bigger and princessier. Like they do like royal lessons with the little princess pad, they have little dress-up keys and perfume. It's very princessy and royal. Whereas in the classic series it's more like they have uniforms to kind of show they're a team, which is slightly different but not too different. And the themes kind of just are good versus bad. Like that is kind of the key theme of Max Heart and Futari is it's like a battle of light and dark and bad, good, blah blah blah. Like it's kind of, now that I think of it, it's kind of like a yin yang kind of thing. You know, pure black and white, they can't exist without each other. It's like the whole idea of the show. They need each other to transform. They literally cannot be Precure without the other one, which I think is kind of cool. But also like obviously it is really frustrating. I do prefer in the modern ones when each character can just transform on their own, and it leads to like more possibilities for like character episodes and stuff. So yeah, I don't really have many thoughts about the classic Precure Futari Wa, just purely because I couldn't sit through it. I'm really sorry. I feel like the fakest Precure fan in the world right now. I promise I love this franchise with all of my heart, but after sitting through all of the other seasons, you struggle to do the first few. Which leads me into Splash Star, which I've compared to the original to death at this point already. I'm really sorry. There's things that make it stand out from the original. I'm not being like totally cynical here. Like the characters, I think I like them more than Honoka and Nagisa actually. So it's Mai and Saki, and Saki is again the tomboyish, short-haired, sporty one. She plays softball. What the hell is what is that? I thought it was baseball because she has a glove, but apparently it's softball. And Mai is again the intelligent, cute little. She does art. She does stargazing. She's really, really cool and sweet. She's like a little baby bird, which is why she is Cure Egret, I guess. And Saki is Cure Bloom. I didn't go over that bit. Okay, before we go any further, I need to get it out. I think Cure Bloom is the ugliest character design this franchise has ever put out there. No disrespect to her, because I love her as a character, but it doesn't work. She just clashes with everything in the show. So she has two forms. There's Cure Bloom and Cure Bright, and neither of these Cure forms work. They are so oversaturated. They are so, the colours, like, it looks like they just kind of spun a wheel and then just picked whatever colours the wheel landed on, and we're like, yeah, we'll make, like, they're so out, they look out of place. Like Egret, on the other hand, like, even her power-up form when she turns into Cure Breeze, they are both beautiful, elegant, soft-looking designs, and they're not too brash and saturated and in your face. But Saki is so bright, and I don't understand what they were thinking from a character design perspective. Like in Pixie's video where she talked, I'll link it here somewhere, she said about Splash Star was like the ugliest season that she'd ever seen. And honestly, watching the series, I don't really get what's ugly about it other than Cure Bloom's design. There's nothing too offensive like about any of the art direction. Like, maybe I just don't have a very keen eye for detail, but I can't get over it. Like, it distracts me from the actual plot of the show. It just makes me sit there and wonder why that they go this route with her design. Again, it's a season I don't have too many thoughts on. Like, it's a Precure season that exists. It's really good. I really liked it. It's a cozy show. I tell you what, it did do amazingly was the villain redemption story was wow. It's so good. So like a few episodes into the series, they bring in these villains called the Kuryu sisters. They are called Michiru and Kaoru, who are the Kuryu sisters. They are like double agents sent from the bad guys' underground world to act like normal teenage girls and go to school with the Precures and like try and get in there and be their friends so they can like destroy them from the inside. I was like, yeah, I love that trope. Really good. And the more time they spend with the Precures and their classmates, the more they realise, oh, actually, we don't really want to be bad guys. We quite like being friends and just hanging out on Earth. And then the big bad guy is like, no, evil, only evil. And then they go and they confront the big bad guy together, and they're like, nah, we don't really want to be evil. So he's like, okay, then damn you to hell, and he throws them into a void or something, and then they like die. And then at the end of the series they come back. It's fine, they don't die, they're just sleeping. And then they like magically come back with the power of friendship at the end of the series and help the Precures kick the bad guys' butts. It's really good. It's a really good, like, it's a lot better, a lot more like gripping and like, oh, will they, won't they, than I just made it sound in like the last 30 seconds. I think they were like really the standout of this series for me. I really love villain redemption stories when they're done right. I'm trying to think of other things that stand out about this series, but I think that is the thing about this series that I love the most. And in the weird little void in the last like handful of episodes between the Curry sisters vanishing into the void and them coming back, I was like, oh, I miss them. There's a lot of villains in this series, and I don't really remember any of them. There's like that big shiny gold yellow guy. I don't really remember it. There's that Spanish one who goes like ha cha 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 or something. It was not memorable villain wise because the Curry sisters are so good. There's that little green pickle looking bastard. I hate him. He is such an evil little. He made me really angry. I didn't like him. And there is a plot twist at the end with the big bad villain. I kind of saw it coming. It wasn't overly predictable, but I thought really deeply into it, and I went, oh, that's a possibility, and then I was right, and I felt quite vindicated. So the little pickle green guy, I'm gonna warn my spoilers, because I got a handful of mixed results when I asked if people wanted spoilers here, so spoilers. The pickly green guy is the big bad guy, like in The Wizard of Oz. Wow, who'd have thought? Me. There is not really a great deal that... It's just the Precure season. There's like a lot of episodes that are really nice about like friendship and forgiveness, and I really like when they talk about their classmates. I like side characters. I think they're really fun for world building. An episode that like kind of really stood out to me was an episode where the Curry sisters tried to cause like a misunderstanding, and you know what? I'm gonna say I hate misunderstanding stories so bad. I hate it when characters don't stick around long enough to just resolve a conflict there and then. Like that trope where a character will overhear a little bit of a conversation out of context and they'll be like, oh no, I'm gonna assume the worst conclusion possible and then run away and not talk to the other character again. I hate stuff like that. And they kind of tried to do that with this episode where Saki and Mai are both at their clubs and they're supposed to meet up and go to the park together or something after their clubs. And the villains make their stuff disappear. So like Saki loses her like baseball glove or something, and Mai loses her sketch pad, and they spend ages looking for these things, and they forget about meeting each other up. And then the villains kind of try and stir it up, like at the end when they give up on looking for their things and head off home. They're like, oh, weren't you meant to meet your friend? Oh, sucks for you. I bet she's really mad that you've forgotten about it. And then the next day at school, they're like, hey, we forgot to meet each other. Really sorry about that. We're still best friends. And I'm so glad they didn't go down a whole misunderstanding thing, because that would have driven me mad. So yeah, pretty solid season. Again, I think it's one that you need to watch early. Like, obviously, like, I wouldn't recommend it as a starting point season because it's a slow one. It took me like maybe a few episodes to get, like maybe 10 episodes to kind of like start feeling it. It's slow. I wouldn't really recommend it as a starter, but it is a nice season. Like, once you're familiar with Precure, I think it's just a nice cozy one to just stick on. So that leads me into the final part of what people call a classic Precure. Yes, Precure 5. This series came out in 2007 and it shook up the formula finally. So after 3 seasons of having duos, and they look very similar, they kind of finally took the series in a new direction and gave it like the kind of spice up that it needed. This is where it gets more like Power Rangers-esque. This is where you start to see what I mean about this show being girly Power Rangers. So this series had not 2, not 3, but 5 whole Precures in it. It's awesome. And they're colour-coded, and they have like more distinct personalities, and they fall into more distinct character tropes, and they have like more adventurous designs, I'd say. They're kind of less plain than the last few series. I feel like I've gone really backwards with watching the franchise, because I watched this one quite recently actually. It took me a while to get into it again. like the first few episodes, like, yeah, and then like there's kind of like a slow bit in the middle, and you're like, and then there's like the occasional like good character development episode, and you're like, yeah, and then you sit through slow episodes again, and you're like, oh, and then there's like this huge like climax right in the middle of the series, and you're like, whoa, and then the series is like just kind of consistently really good from then on, which is kind of bananas to me. So let's start from the beginning before I get too ahead of myself. So it starts with Nozomi, who is Kyo Dream. She's just vibing, running late to school, doing like typical magical girl protagonist things, and she runs into this horrible grown man who I hate with all my heart. And I can't remember, I watched this first episode, it's taken me a really long time to get through this series, so I don't remember fully how it goes, but it's like a really generic magical girl first episode. She meets this mysterious man. Ooh, she gets the magical girl transformation thing. She helps the little helpless squirrel creature who's actually the man and saves the day. And she's like, yeah, sure, I'll be a magical girl. Why not? And like, obviously, I love the season's bits. I especially love the characters in this one, but I cannot overlook the stupid love story they've really forced between our lovely, delightful 14-year-old protagonist and this horrible, stinky, grown adult man who is her teacher. I hate it with a passion. It makes me so... I could not sit through certain episodes of this show because of how much I hate them pushing this romance story. It is... like, if it was, like, maybe, like, a silly little one-sided crush, like young girls tend to have on older guys, then yeah, sure, I would have let it slide. But the fact that they made it like a reciprocated romance and they like actually tried to put them together as a couple like discreetly, I hate it. I cannot. They went as far as to make them kiss in the movie, and that makes me really sad. And there is an episode I made me so angry I couldn't watch the show for like a week afterwards, where this girl in Nozomi's class gives a horrible he's called Nuts. No, sorry, that's the other horrible stinky grown man. So he's called Coco. He's, before we go any further, he's like a little fluffy white squirrel creature thing. He's a magical fairy, he's the prince of his kingdom, and for some reason he has to turn into a grown man who is a teacher at her school. And this other student gives him a love letter, and Nozomi sees it from afar, and it's, oh my god, it's a misunderstanding thing that makes it even worse. And she's like, oh no, for whatever reason, and then it's just a stupid episode. I skipped to the end because I was like, oh, let's see how they resolve this then. And he was like, oh, I could never have feelings for any of my other students. Oh, but you're different, you know? Oh my god. He's like, oh, I know it's wrong for a teacher to be in love with a student and stuff like this. And I was like, yeah, you're nearly there. You've nearly got the nail on the head. So why are you still going out with this student, huh, buddy? And yeah, the other fairy in the season, he's called Nuts. It's stupid. I've got it here as a note. Like, I hate that they're called Coco and Nuts. They're stupid names. Like, Coco is fine, but Nuts on his own. This bloke, this guy, he's called Nuts. I get it. Kind of, because, you know, together they're Coco Nuts. Haha, Coco Nuts, funny. But it's so stupid that on his own he's just Nuts. Especially when he turns into a grown man and they're all calling him Nuts. It's so dumb. I really hate these fairies. They deserve to burn in the depths of hell. I went on a tangent there about these horrible creatures preying on innocent teenage girls. Where was I? There's something. I know it's really prevalent in like 90s and early 2000s media. I know it's like, it was the thing to have like young teenage girls chasing after significantly older men. Like, they did it in Sailor Moon. They did it in a lot of other things, actually. There was like quite a lot of popular things here in the West as well, where it was just deemed totally normal, and I hate that. I hate it so much. It opens up a whole can of worms. I'm not gonna go any further than this. I hate this trope. Let's leave it at that. I have a lot of notes about the characters. I'm gonna talk about the characters. I need to stop thinking about cocoa nuts. So I spoke a little bit about Nozomi. She's Kira Dream. She's like super cool, super happy, super fun. She's pink. She's a really good leader. Like I like this trope of like the pink cures are generally kind of dumb and helpless and clumsy and very me. I love pink cures, but when they need to be, they are really good, strong leaders. They know what to do in a pinch. And like, while they've got nothing going for them, they're awesome, like they're good friends, and that's where they shine. They use like their friendship and like their love for other people to like save the day. Like so in the middle of the season, everyone but Nozomi, I think all of them actually, all of them get brainwashed by the bad guys and they like fall into despair. And it's Nozomi's like real strong love and friendship for her other precursors that like break them all out of this like this trance and this like depression and get them back out and fighting again. And I think it's awesome when they do that in Precure. It happens a lot, but like every time it happens, I'm like, wow, friendship is awesome. And then my favourite from the series is Urara. She is Cure Lemonade. She is super cute. She's got like pointy hair. I have a lot of nice things to say about her. I like yellow and pink cures always seem to be my favourite, but that's just because they follow a certain trope and the trope is always really good. She is an idol. She wants to be an actress because her mum who died was an actress and she looks up to her and wants to like live out the dreams her mum couldn't finish. Sob sob. She is so cute and sweet and precious, and she sings. She there's like a whole character arc of her like feeling like she shouldn't be a singer type idol as well as an actor, because like her dream is to be like her mother who was an actor, and she feels like she's betraying her dreams by going off and trying new things. And then her friends are like, oh well, you don't know, you might love singing and it might like open up a whole new world for you, and it does. And she loves singing and it's a real sweet little story. And she has like a lot of real fun character episodes. She has she's just like one of the best characters in this series. I just love her to bits. She's so good. Like I cannot articulate how good she is. Yeah, my notes about her are just her focus episodes are the best, which they are. Cure Rouge, she is the red one. Her name is Rin. She's again like that kind of tomboyish, kind of sporty trope that we have seen so much in the past. I don't have that many thoughts about her. She is a little bit forgettable, but maybe it's because characters who are sporty don't interest me so much. She has like this girly side that they bring out in a few episodes, like she loves her football and she loves her, I don't know, whatever else it is she does. I think she does more than one sport, but I don't really remember. She has like a lot of nice feminine qualities, and they kind of like try to contrast her tomboyish sporty side with it. So like there's a lot of episodes that focus on like how much she loves her family. She loves to help out at her mum's florist shop. I might be remembering that wrong. She is like a helpless romantic. She is a sweet girl. She's just kind of forgettable. I think she's probably my least favourite in this season, but I still like her. I don't actively dislike any of the like 80 whatever cures in this franchise, for the record. I think it's dumb to hate any of the characters. The only character I'll get into it later actually, but the only character I don't really care for maybe is like, there's a small handful of them. I'll go into that later, it's fine. I don't want to go off on a tangent when I'm halfway through talking about the masterpiece that is, yes, Precure 5. Yeah. What else have I said about Cure Rouge? Yeah, so apparently the episode of hers that stuck out most to me was this episode where she has a crush on this grown man and then is horrified to learn that he in fact has a girlfriend and like has a house and mortgage and stuff with her. I thought that was a really dumb episode. Like, yeah, he's a grown man, what did you expect? Why can't any of these girls go for someone their own age, you know? And for some reason she has like this character arc about like, yeah, she's tomboyish, but she likes making bracelets and accessories and she wants to be like a designer or something. She was forgettable to me, but that's what I remember about her. Then there is the green one. She's Cure Mint. Her name is Komachi. She might be more forgettable to me than Cure Rouge now I think of it. She is like quiet and shy. She's like, is she the vice president of the student council or like an assistant or something? She hangs out with Karen a lot. She is a writer. She wants to be a novelist, and she does not do a lot else. She owns a her family, not her, that'd be weird. They own a sweet shop, like a traditional Japanese sweet shop, and she always brings daifuku to the clubhouse where they all hang out. That's all I have to say about her. I like her enough. She's a sweet girl, and she had like her moments. Her debut episode was cool. That's really all I remember about her, I'm afraid. And then the fifth of the 5 is Cure Aqua. She's called Karen, which is really funny to me for some reason. She's really cool and really nice. She's like kind of a dark horse. She seems really mean and cold on the surface, but like the more you get to know her throughout the series, you're like, oh, she's like a real sweetheart actually. Why is Karen such a popular name in kids anime? There's always like a character called Karen, and she's always really sweet and nice. It seems to be like quite a glam name in Japan, whereas opposed to here, it's a horrible, horrible name. We use it derogatory here. So Karen is the president of the student council. This is like a running thing for Blue Cures. Like, they all seem to be like intelligent, mysterious and beautiful, and a lot of them are like traditional Japanesey type girlies. I don't have a lot to say about Karen either. Like, she didn't stand out to me so much in Yes 5, and then in Yes 5 Go Go is when I fell in love with Karen, I think. So I'll go along with that later. There is a third, more mysterious, more exciting fairy in this series I haven't talked about yet. She sort of like rocks up halfway through the series. Her name is Milk. She's a little funny bunny. I love little funny bunnies so much with all my heart. She's so cute. She's got those big floppy ears. She kind of just turns up to cause trouble. A lot of the fans really hate her. I'm gonna cross this bridge now. She's like one of the most despised creatures in the whole series for some reason, and I don't particularly think she's like that offensive. She is really cute, and yeah, okay, so like her whole thing is that she exists to be like a kind of servant to Coco and Nuts, because I feel like they're princes where they come from, and she comes back from their kingdom. She's like one of the only survivors of the attack from the bad guys. Oh yeah, I didn't even get into that. So like the kingdom where the little horrible rat guys come from, it's been taken over and destroyed or something by the Nightmare Corporation, which is like this big office full of bad guys who just want to destroy the world basically. And so Milk is somehow like one of the only other survivors, and she finds her way to Earth somehow, I can't remember, and she finds Coco and Nuts, and she like starts hanging out the Precures, and she's a bit of a pain in the butt, but I really like her. Like, she causes a lot of drama, and she has good intentions, and people overlook that a lot, and they think, oh yeah, she's just a little turd, but she's really cool, and she's really sweet, and she has trouble expressing her emotions a little, you know, like she doesn't like people to know how much she cares, and she has a very roundabout way of expressing herself, and I think she's great. And like throughout the series we see her like become more open and a bit warmer, and I like her a lot. What else have I said? The team dynamic is super fun. I think the more characters you have in a Precure season, the better it tends to turn out. Like, I love the team dynamic. I love the possibilities of like the different like pairings and the dynamics and all the different ways you can split up the team and have them interact with each other, and all the different stories you can tell with big groups of characters. I just love big diverse teams of people who are really different, all bouncing off each other. I just think it's awesome. My notes are like basically how much I hate Coco. I've got a note here that literally just says, I hate Coco, I want to punt him. Oh yeah, so another thing about Milk is that I didn't expect her to show up in this season. Like, I knew, like, from, like, the surface before I watched any of this series, that I knew she was going to be in Yes 5 Go-Go. I knew she played a big role in that series, so I was really surprised when she turned up halfway through the season. I was like, oh, you! And it was a nice surprise. I welcomed my little funny bunny overlord. That's really, like, all I have to say. The team dynamic is fun. Now, let's talk about Yes 5 Go-Go before I lose my mind.
Yes, big killer 5 Go-Go!
Yes 5 Go-Go is the 2008 series. Did you know that? And it's the exact same team as before. It's a direct sequel. It happens, like, literally straight after the events of the first series, which is really funny to me. Like, these girls had a break for, like, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then, oh god, bad guys have shown up again. Can't a pretty girl ever get a break? No, you can't. No rest for the wicked. My season notes for this one, they're unhinged again. So this is really, like, it's Yes 5 again, but different. So something I completely forgot to explain about Yes 5 is that they have to collect these things called pinkies, and they are like these little creatures, and they remind me of moshi monsters. They remind me of the little moshi monsters you could collect. That's what they're like. They had to collect these, and they had to put them in their watches, and when they collected all of the pinkies, like, they could make a wish, and the wish would restore the kingdom. So this was like the same thing again, but instead of pinkies, they had to collect some other things, and it's a very tired format. I didn't care for it. I just like the character building in this series, really. So the only thing really that's added when you look at the whole story is the character Milky Rose. Oh, I wonder who that could be. It's Milk. So I have some fun notes. A fun new fairy gets introduced this season. His name is Syrup. He's a little bird. He turns into a boy who is, guess what, he is their age, and he has, like, a totally cool, not weird romance with Urara going on. And I wish that was the canon, the more canon relationship than bloody Coco and Nozomi. Like, they have a sweet young boy with a sweet young girl, and they support each other. And Syrup's a fun character. He has lost his memory. He doesn't know who he is, where he's come from, and he knows he's escaped the evil organisation. He used to work for them. He's really confused, he's lost. I want to protect him with my life. I love Syrup to death. And he doesn't trust anyone. He doesn't trust Coco and Nuts, which is fair. I wouldn't either as a woman. And he becomes good friends with Urara in particular, and he learns to open up to her, and he trusts her, and he tells her all these things he knows about himself, and she tells him, like, secrets about her, and she opens up about her struggles and her past, and it's just a lovely, sweet dynamic. They are really nice together. I wish there was more of that in this series. I wish that all the romance wasn't between teenage girls and their teachers. He is a cool bird. It's like, I have a note here in capital letters, just cool bird. He turns into, like, a little bird, and then he can turn into, like, this weird big bird aeroplane thing, and they ride around in him, and it's really fun. And they get, like, Precure lightsabers this season. They power up and they're like light sword things. I don't know. That was just another thing that stood out to me this season. Yeah, this is another season where I skipped a lot of the episodes that weren't really relevant to the main plot, because there is so much Nozomi and Coco nonsense. Like, the series literally starts off with Nozomi writing him, like, a love letter, and being like, oh, how can I deliver this to the kingdom where he lives, because it's like another world. And then Syrup rocks up and he's like, hey, did you know I'm a magic mailman? And here's a letter for you from, like, this fairy rose lady. I can't remember what her deal was. And Nozomi's like, hey, cool, do you want to deliver this love letter to Coco? And he's like, no, why would I want to do that? And then Coco comes back to Earth in, like, the second episode, and she's like, oh, I have so many feelings, he's finally back. And he is a proper little... he's a piece of work about it. And I'm like, yeah, cool, that's it. You act cold towards her. You sit and you think about what you've done, mister. You tell her to go chase after a guy her own age, and then he doesn't. And then things kind of go back to normal between them eventually. And there's just like a lot of drama about their stupid relationship, and I didn't have the time for that. So like, yeah, my main notes is, I'm on my knees, crying and shaking. I'm begging the writers to stop writing this horrible, stupid, noncy romance. That is my main takeaway from this season. Milky Rose, I have a lot of cool things to say about her. I think she is a girl boss. I think she is a badass. If you don't like her, I have explicitly said, if you don't like her, you're an idiot. Like, I genuinely cannot understand why people hate her so much. I think she's really cool. She has like a lot of depth to her. She's a little bit mean to Nozomi at times, but it's tough love. That is her thing. All the other characters are like so nice to her all the time. They need to balance it out with someone who is a bit harsher and a bit more realistic. Like, their dynamic reminds me of, in the 90s Sailor Moon, how Sailor Mars was always like the voice of reason. She was really harsh and tough on Sailor Moon when she needed it. She could be like proper nasty at times, but at the end of the day, they're still friends. They're just like super honest with each other. And like, if you didn't have that friend who was super brutally honest with you and like kind of slapped you back to reality when you needed it, then like, where would you be, you know? I don't really get why people didn't like that. I really liked that dynamic. And so something I really liked is there's a really good dynamic between Karen and Milky Rose. She takes human form like Coco and Nuts do in this series. She's called... what is she called? It's like Miruki or something. It's something really similar to Milky. There was like a real standout episode in this series where they're like in a game show. It's a good laugh. It is reminiscent of like a Smile episode, but again, that's for later. Yeah, so it's a two-parter, and that doesn't happen in Precure very much. But it's like this big two-parter, just a silly fun episode. I don't want to go too much into it. They're like in this game show and they each have to do like a different game related to like their individual strengths, but it's rigged so they lose, and like if they lose all 5 then they like die or something. And then like Karen comes through at the last minute and she's like, hey, check this out, I found a loophole. And you know what, I love a good loophole, and that Karen really won me over in that episode. There is this character, she's called Crep, and I skipped all of these episodes because she annoyed me so bad. She is Coco's fiance from back home, and she just rocks up like, hey, did you know I'm Coco's fiance? And then Nozomi like goes bananas, like, what the hell? And I was like, oh god. So I skipped all of that. It was a lot of nonsense. I don't have the patience for a stupid love triangle in a relationship that I do not care about. The rose flower lady Flora that I mentioned earlier, she's like a big deal. So I think her and Eternal, like the big bad guy, were like exes, right? Like, that's what I'm getting from the subtext. There's like a whole lot of drama with them at the end. It was quite interesting. The last few episodes were really, really interesting. There's like this collector dude, and they turned the Precures to stone. He's like, yeah, you're going in my collection. There's like loads of other cool stuff in his collection, like, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower or something like that. I didn't really pay attention. Yeah, I don't really know where I was going with this one. It's a good series, basically. I don't want to talk too much about it because I've been sat here for like an hour already and I have just not shut up. I want to get to the seasons I actually have a lot of thoughts about. Yeah, so main takeaway, yes, 5 go-go, really, really fun. If you don't like Milky Rose, shame on you. Fresh Precure. Finally, I'm getting to a season I'm passionate about. I can talk about this one. This is the 2009 series. It features my beloved Cure Peach and her friends Cure Berry, Cure Pine, and then the mid-season Cure. The first time ever they did a mid-season Cure, Cure Passion. The coolest villain redemption ever, maybe? Like, they did the mid-season Cure villain redemption thing for the first time ever this series, and they blew it out the park. They set the bar so high. I don't think they've ever gotten that close again. So, Cure Peach is this real cute little happy-go-lucky girl. Her name is Love, okay? Her name is Love. And I adore her. And she's so cute. And she really looks up to this dancer lady idol who's in a dance group, and she wants to be like her and have her own dance group and perform on stage like with her idol, basically. So this is the first series that did a proper theme. The theme, it's subtle. It's not as heavily themed as, say, like Go Princess or Star Twinkle, but it's there. So the theme is dancing. This series did like a lot of things for the first time. It introduced the CGI dance ending. We've never had like a proper CGI dance ending until this series. It introduced the mid-season cure. I think that might be it for those are the most significant things they introduced. But the theme song, again, is a banger. This was the first time they ever did two versions of the theme song within the series for some reason. It starts off with one version, and then after the mid-season cure, there's like the actual song changes. Like this happened in I can think of like maybe 3 or 4 seasons where this happens. It's like a really rare thing, but it's so good that it gets like sort of like an allegro version. It's I love it when they do that. So my main issue with this season, it's a minor one, is that while Cure Peach and Cure Passion are these really good, well-rounded characters with like loads going for them, Cure Berry and Cure Pine kind of lack substance, and they're still good. They've still got stuff going for them, but they're just not as exciting, and like I don't think I could talk about them as much as Peach and Passion. So like Cure Berry, she's the blue one, she's got purple hair. I don't like it when the blue cures have purple hair. It kind of throws me. She's nice, I really like her, but like there's just not much going for her. So she is, I want to say she's the idol character of this season. She wants to be like an actress or a model. She's a model, this is it. Yeah, she's a model. And that's kind of it, really. Like all her focus episodes are about her modelling. And she had this one episode where like they kind of play on the fact that she's got this phobia of octopuses and she's got to overcome it to fight this big octopus monster and save the others. And she's got like this brother. I can't remember what the deal with her brother is. I think her parents are divorced or something and her brother lives with her dad and they don't see each other very often. But they had like a few good things with her. But then I think ultimately they kind of fell short because there was just so much focus on Peach and Passion. And the same with Pine. She is a sweetheart. She is cute. She likes animals. Her parents are on a vet. I think she wants to be a vet herself too. I can't remember if that's completely right. This is one of my favourite seasons and I don't remember. She, fun fact, is the only Cure in the entire franchise to canonically have a religion. She is canonically Christian, which is like super bizarre. But like she does like this her whole thing is like she's the symbol of faith and hope and all this, and she's got like a lot of Christian imagery going on with her. I don't know why they did that. It was like super bizarre, but whatever. The fairies this season are this little ferrety dude. His name is Tart, and there's this little baby creature thing called Chiffon, and I know people have mixed feelings about Chiffon. I personally like her. I think she's cute. She goes like wee wee wee. She's really funny and cute, and she, for like a like a baby, I don't like babies, let's put it out there. I hate them, especially in anime. Like in Pre-Para, they introduced the baby, and that was kind of where I just kind of couldn't keep watching the series. This was like 100 odd episodes in, it's fine. I love Pre-Para. But they just cry, and like a lot of the plot relies on like baby care, and it just doesn't interest me. But they didn't overdo the baby thing with Chiffon, I think, and there was like quite a lot of interesting lore behind Chiffon, like she's actually like this weapon that can destroy the world or something. I can't remember. The villains in the season are really, really good. They are a evil kind of gang. They're called Labyrinth. They come from like this alternate universe that I think is literally called Labyrinth, and it's like really dark and depressing, and I don't really remember what the deal was. Like there's like some kind of evil dictator that's taken over and no one's allowed to be free. And there's Wester, is he called Wester? And that I know that their names are like north, east, south, west, but I just can't for the life of me remember what they are. They really stand. There's like this like gay couple villain. They are like two dads. They're awesome. Wester and I want to say Solar. And there's this like evil lady who rocks up at the end after the whole mid-season cure thing happens. She's called Northa, and then the woman of the moment, Ys, she has like this whole like she has this double agent thing going on. She's kind of like the Kyoryu sisters but ramped up. So she takes on this human disguise and she goes to the human world. I've talked so much my throat is drying out. She takes on the disguise of this teenage girl called Setsuna, and she poses as like a fortune teller, and she befriends Love, and she tries to like kind of mislead her and give her like false prophecies to kind of destroy her hope as a pretty cure and kind of weaken her and get in there when she's weak. But Love, being the super cute, optimistic, fun loving girl that she is really dumb. And she doesn't realise that Ys Setsuna, whatever, is this like evil, horrible person who's trying to kill her, and she just wants to be friends. She like takes her out and shows her cool stuff around town, and she gives her like this flower necklace, and she's like, look, this means we're friends. And so something weird about the villains is that they have like this determined time of death. This was something that they canonized for some reason. They have like an exact moment in time when they're just meant to keel over and die, and for some reason Setsuna, Ys, whatever, hers is kind of in the middle of the series, and this is where like the whole shebang happens. This is Cure Passion. So she, after a little while, obviously, kind of like the Kyoryu sister, she has this kind of moral struggle. She's like, oh, maybe I am friends with them. I don't know how to feel anymore. I know I'm meant to be evil, but like they're not really giving me much reason to be evil. I kind of want to be good. You know, and so, ooh, what will I do? And then she has this big fight with Cure Peach when she's trying to get her head straight. She's like, no, I have to be evil. This is who I am. This is my destiny. And then her time of death goes, boom, and she just keels over like in the middle of the fight. And then she's like, and then Cure Peach is like really shocked and horrified, and she's like, what the hell? This is horrible. How can you just let them die like this? And Cure Peach's feelings are so strong, it causes her to be reborn as Cure Passion, and it's the coolest thing ever. And she's like, she comes back and she's like, yeah, you know what, I don't have to be evil, you guys don't control me, I'm reborn as like this symbol of hope and love and power and friendship. And it's really, really, it is fantastic. Like, I cannot describe it in a way that makes it sound as good as it is. It's like the Kyoryu sisters, but in the way it's like, will she be good? It's so good. Like, and like I said, it was the first time they ever did a mid-season cure, and on top of that, it was a redemption character. So can you imagine how messed up the kids watching must have been? Like, what the hell? A villain becoming a pretty cure? And one of the coolest things about this series was, like, they gave us this red herring character from the start. Like, we knew from the start there would be a mid-season cure because there are 4 pretty cure keys, and they, like, float around and they look for who's going to be the pretty cure. And there is a red key, and it looks like the dance lady is going to be the 4th pretty cure. She's designed in a way that makes her stand out like a typical pretty cure does. She's like really close with the others, so it makes sense for her to eventually join the team. And the key is, they mislead us. The key looks like it's going towards her at times and checking her out and be like, maybe you're the next pretty cure. But actually, this whole time, it's been trying to get to Ys, and it can't because of like her evil aura, like chasing it away. And like once she becomes purified and reborn as Cure Passion, the key can finally get to her, and it's awesome. It's so good. It's so clever. I love this series. There is a romantic subplot in this series. There is a boy in Love's class called Daisuke. Isn't that cute? They're Love and Daisuke. And he is really funny. I really like the dude. I know that like people either love him or hate him. I love him. I really, really like the dynamic he has with Love, and like it's probably my favourite romantic subplot in the whole series. And he's such a funny little dude. And there's like this episode where they're trapped in the school, like in this haunted house thing together, and they're like, they have to get through it together, and it's just really fun. And he's got this whole like tough teenage boy, oh, I don't like you kind of thing about him, but when he really obviously does like her. And then as the series goes on, we see his feelings for Love like grow and grow, and he he like confides in Kira Peach in one episode. He's like, hey, I have a crush on this girl in my class. And then, and then at the end of the series, they do this identity reveal thing, because they're like, hey, look, we're gonna go fight the bad guys, and if we don't come back and we die or whatever, we need you to know that this is why we haven't come back, and like these teenage girls have all gone missing. And he's like, what the hell? Kira Peach, I trusted you, and you are the girl I loved all along. It's really funny, I love it. And I love identity reveals, and they don't do it in Precure very much. Again, there's like maybe 3 or 4 seasons that have done it, and there's just so much in Fresh that I could talk about. It's such a good series. What else have I said? Yeah, so I believe that this is the season where the franchise really found its footing. Like, people say that this one saved Precure from being cancelled. I don't know if that's true or not, because I've heard people say it's not true, but then like I've tried looking into it myself, and most of the things I've found have been true. So I don't really know what the deal is there. I can believe that it's what saved the franchise, because it spices it up in so many, it brings so many things to it. It's like after watching the first few seasons and then watching Fresh, you're like, wow, this is Precure. It's so good. I love Fresh Precure with all of my heart. I'm going to be really controversial here. Let's talk about Heartcatch Precure. This season aired in 2010. There's a fun little stat for you to, let's warm us up. This season is about flowers. They go quite hard with the flower theming. Every episode, this is something I really like about the series. I love flower language. I think it's really interesting. And every episode, they focus on flower language with a different flower. So the gimmick this season is everyone has like a flower in their heart that symbolises who they are as a person. That's where the flower language comes in. And the villains like try and steal this heart flower, and they try to turn it evil and destroy the world with it. They'll use like the feelings and whatever inside the flower to like wilt it and make bad things happen, basically. I think this is awesome. I love flower language. But I need to get this out there. So this is like kind of widely regarded as like the best Precure season. So many people go, yeah, this is the best season of Precure. And I don't get the hype with this season. It's good. I enjoyed it. It was a fun watch, but I don't get why people like it as much as they do. People say it's really dark. I don't think it's that dark. I don't think it's that much darker than your average Precure season. It's not that deep. I'm gonna be real with you. Yeah, okay, so we watched like a fairy die on screen by being like shot by like a beam or something. But like honestly, like I can't think of anything that makes this like live up to the hype that I've been seeing online about this series. Like, come on. The little fairies, they do a poop on screen every single episode. It gets really tired. It's not like this like really off-brand, like more adult, darker, horrible series that people make it out to be. And I don't think it's particularly like brilliant. I'm sorry, this is like the most controversial thing I'm ever gonna say. I'm gonna get like beaten to death by the Precure fans. Like, because this is like a lot of people's favourite series, and I just don't really get why it stands out that much. I don't like the art style. I don't really care that much about the villains. They get really worn out after a while. The characters are nothing special. I like them. There's Cure Blossom. She's very different to the stereotypical lead pink Cure. I like that a lot. I think that's interesting. She's really shy and she is unsure of herself. She doesn't have a lot of confidence. She wears these big glasses and she's a bit dorky, and I love that. And her whole thing is sort of about learning to accept herself and overcome all her fears, and that's kind of what the whole show leads up to. And the big grand finale is her accepting who she is instead of like needing to change to be someone that she isn't. And that really spoke to me, I think, as a person. I liked that message a lot. But other than that, I can't say a lot about her. Like, she didn't really stand out. Cure Marine, she's a really popular character. Her name is Erica, like an Erica flower. Again, she's neat. I find her a little bit grating. Her voice kind of annoys me. I like that she's really goofy and comic relief. That's nice. She's a bit silly, a bit crazy, what's she like, love her. But again, there's like not that much I could say about her. Like, yeah, she goes through some nice character moments, and she comes off as like a bit too brash and a bit too pushy, and she learns to like chill the hell out. I don't have much to say about her. Pure Sunshine is my favourite from this season, actually. I really liked her story. She goes through like this whole like family pleasing gender crisis sort of thing. Okay, so she has like this brother, and her family own a dojo, I think, and her brother is expected to inherit this dojo, but he's got like some kind of like chronic illness or disability or something, and it looks like he can't be the heir because he's too weak and frail to do karate or whatever. So her name is Itsuki, so she's doing karate stuff, and she feels like she has to act very masculine because she's taking her brother's place. She wears like the boys' school uniform, she cuts her hair short, she tries to keep all her like girly interests in the way, like she hides away her dresses and she feels ashamed for wanting to wear them. But I didn't really agree with that. I thought it was really silly. But her story of like it's a story about like learning to be true to yourself. That is like the core message of this series, which is really nice. That's something that has going for it, and that I really liked about this one. All the characters are learning to just be true to themselves and do what makes them happy. And her story is like, she goes from wanting to take her brother's place and do what she feels is right for her family to doing what she feels is right for herself. So she goes through this whole arc of learning to be more feminine and express herself a bit more. She's really nice. I like her a lot. And then there's Kyo Moonlight. I don't care about this character very much. She's one of the only few characters in the franchise I don't care about, as I said earlier. I don't tend to dislike any of the characters, but I just don't really feel anything towards Kyo Moonlight. She bores me. Like, yeah, I get she went through a lot of bad things, but she just doesn't interest me. I don't feel the need to root for her. Yeah, so I don't really get the hype for this season, which is fair enough, you know, that's my opinion. And the art style is ugly. I know it's like the same sort of art style as Ojimajudori, but it just doesn't really work for Precure, I don't think. Yeah, I said about the whole dark thing earlier. I don't know why people hype this up and going, oh, it's really dark, it's really edgy for a Precure. It's not. It's a show for little preschool girls. It's made to sell them toys. The fairies poop on the screen every episode. There's this stupid like thing that they spin and put beads in. It's not that dark. There's like a couple of like dark moments, and every Precure season has that, and for some reason people like really like to exaggerate how dark this one is. It does my head in. Like, every season has like its dark moments and like some real like hard hitting like themes, and it's like, whoa. And like, this is nothing special. I don't get it. Something I really liked about this season, let's get back into saying nice things, is that it's character driven. I love character driven stuff. Like, Precure in general is really character driven anyway, but this is kind of reminiscent of Ojimaju Doremi, actually, in that each episode will focus on someone like in the characters' lives. It's usually like a classmate or a family member or something, and we learn a bit about their life. Like, I think one that really stuck out to me was this little girl whose mother had passed away, and her dad was really busy with work, and she was like really going through it, like trying to like help out around the house and balance it with school, and she was really miserable, and they helped her out, and that was really nice. There's a lot of stuff like that, like about like helping people out with their troubles and stuff. I just really liked that. And I love learning about the flower language in every episode. The fairies in this season, they're like little creatures. I like them a lot, but I especially love Potpourri. He is so cute, and I just want to squish him. That is really all I have written down about this season. I think I've said enough about this one, though. I'm tired of talking about it. Let's talk about another season.
Sweet, sweet goody-goo.
This is how you guys find out I don't care about Sweet Precure at all. It's a shame because, like, when I first saw this series, I was like, oh, that looks sick as hell. I love music themed stuff. Like, I love my idol anime. I love music. I love magical girls. It like seems to mush up. I like cats. There's a lot of cats in this one, and it just didn't work. I love the character designs. I think Pure Melody is cool as hell. I really like her. But I hate conflict, I hate misunderstanding, and that is what this series is built upon. Like, the core thing of Precure is the power of friendship, and I cannot believe that these girls are meant to have any kind of friendship because it all feels so wrong and so forced and like they're not meant to be friends. They did such a bad job. Like, they have like stupid squabbles like near enough every single episode. It is so tedious. I don't like this series at all. They just bicker over stupid little things like, ooh, you ate my last cake, or ooh, you were late for school, ooh, you're a bad friend. I hate this series. I tried so hard to stay with it. I thought it would get better once the mid-season cure turned up. It's just really boring. It doesn't do, and it's a shame because like the world building is cool. Like, there's Minor Land and Major Land. They're like these two magical musical lands, and like one is full of light and hope, and they have like this song that they sing every year to keep the peace. And then there's Minor Land, which is full of like evil gremlin men, and it's really funny. Yeah, I got bored of this one real quick, which is a shame because like obviously there's like a lot of really cool plot stuff. There's a cool redemption mid-season cure, called Cure Beat. She is this cat who is evil and then decides actually I don't want to be evil anymore, and she becomes a Precure. The sound effects in the transformation, like boom boom la 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 la, the transformation in general is so good. If you watch it, you'll notice it's really similar to like the Sailor Moon ones. I believe it has the same music composer because it's really reminiscent of Sailor Moon Crystal, both animation and music wise. The soundtrack for the season is so good. It has one of my favourite theme songs in the whole franchise, and it's another season that has two versions of the theme song. And it kind of just sucks that the season overall is so bad because there's like so many nice little things about it, like the design and the music and all that just works. Hummy is a real fun little fairy. She's like la 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 la, I'm a silly cat, and she's so stupid. Her head is so empty. Like, she doesn't really do anything plot relevant. She's just so dumb. Like, one day I will maybe try and get through this whole season and see if I think anything more of it, but I couldn't watch this whole one. The ending is interesting. There's like a big plot twist with the big bad guy and Cure Muse and all this stuff. But again, this is something I can't really talk much about. It's not a season I care about. Oh, and there's these little fairy tones, and they are like little music note bodies, and they remind me of Oddish because they've got like the little feet and the little bodies, and I like those a lot. And the transformation items in the season are really cool. They're like heart-shaped, music-y, compact-y things, and you slot this fairy tone in and it goes la 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 and it changes them into Precures. And it's really good. I like the characters enough. Like Cure Melody, I said earlier, is really cool. She's got a sick character design. I quite like that she's kind of like gruff in a way. She has an interesting enough story. She's got like a lot of trauma from her dad being a bit of a jackass and traumatizing her with music, and she has to like kind of learn to love music again. Cure Rhythm is really forgettable. She's like got a nice design, but as a character there's not a lot I could tell you about her. She like doesn't even stand out enough in her own show where she is a duo for most of it, which is really sad. She bakes cakes and stuff. She's really boring. Like, I generally like kind of forget that she exists overall in the franchise. I'll be like listing through the cures in my head. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a character that exists. But yeah, Sweet is, it's alright. It exists. We are on 2012 now. That is Smile Precure. This is a really special series to me because it was the first one I ever watched, even though I watched it as Glitter Force, and it's still really special to me, okay? I have a lot of feelings about this one. The theme is fairy tales and storybooks and stuff, and that's awesome, okay? So the only issue really I have overall with this series is that they didn't go as far into the fairy tale theme as I would have liked, because they kind of did it already with Yes 5 Go Go. In Yes 5 Go Go there's a lot of episodes where they get like sucked into different fairy tale worlds and have to like fight their way through the stories, and I really wish they hadn't done that because then they could have done it more with this series. In Smile, there is one episode where they get sucked into a fairy tale world, and it was a really good concept. They have to protect the origin story of Cinderella, and I really wished they had done this more in the series. So basically, there is one special Cinderella book story, and it is the original one. It's her origin story, and if anything bad changes or happens in that book, then basically all of the Cinderella stories in the world will be ruined, and the bad guys obviously try and get hold of this origin book and ruin the story. And I really wish they had done this more. And the Kyos all get sucked into the story. They've got to play the roles of the characters. They've got to try and reenact the story right, and the bad guys try and interfere, and they've got to try and get it close enough to the origin story so that the other books in the world don't get affected. I thought this was awesome. They could have done this with so many other fairy tales, and I really wish they had. That's my biggest gripe with this series. This series is... I'm not going to try and do maths in my head. But basically what I was going to say was this series feels like a kind of like a tribute or an homage to Yes 5. It's got like the same kind of characters. It's got like a green, blue, pink, orangey, reddy, and yellow Kyos. So obviously the same colour scheme is there. They've got like similar-ish enough uniforms. Obviously there's the fairy tale thing going on. So this came out exactly 5 years after the original Yes 5. Or maybe it came out 5 years after Go-Go, I can't remember. So it kind of feels like an homage to that series. That's like a 5 years of that series being out, you know? I don't know if this is ever confirmed or touched on by anyone. I've never really seen anyone talk about it. I know there's like a lot of similarities that people have pointed out between the two series. I've seen people say, oh, Smile's just a rip-off of Yes 5. Don't be stupid. Be real. How can Precure be a rip-off of Precure? So the main character in this one is Miyuki. She's called Cure Happy, and she is so cute. She's really obsessed with fairy tales and picture books and all, and I respect that. And then there's Cure Sunny. She is really similar to Cure Rouge in the way that she's like a red orangey kind of Cure. She's sporty. She has like a few parallels, like she helps out her parents' shop, but they run like a restaurant instead of a florist's. She again has like these nice girly episodes. She has a crush on this like transfer student in one episode, and I really wish they'd kept that in the dub because it was like a real nice character moment for her, and it showed like her softer, sweeter side. I really liked it a lot. Peace is the best one. Cure Peace, her name is Yayoi. She draws manga and she wants to be a comic book artist, and she is really shy and awkward, and she's into like Gundam and stuff. She's like super autism coded. I love her to bits. She is like always like sat in the corner with her little notepad like, please don't look at me, and then when she's with her friends she's like a bit more unhinged and a bit more wah wah wah, you know? Cure March, the green one, she's called Now. She is like, she's a big sister, and I'm a sucker for big sister characters. She loves her family a lot. She would like die for her siblings, and I respect that. I love big sister characters. They make me feel warm inside. There isn't really a lot to say about her because most of her character depth is like that she loves her family, and that's okay. I don't care about character depth too much. Like, characters don't have to be like super deep for me to like them. Like, just give me enough reason to like a character. Like, not every character has to have loads and loads and loads of like backstory and like trauma and lore and whatever. Like, a character being a nice person who just does their best is enough for me to like them. I think people overlook that a lot, especially with Precure. Like, if a character doesn't have like tons and tons of depth to them, then for some reason Precure fans think this is bad. But like, the point in Precure is that these are nice girls, and they just want to do their best. They just want to grow up, and they want to live their best lives, and they're just there to be the audience's friends. And I don't know, I feel like we forget that a lot. And the same with Cure Beauty. She's called Reika. She is the student council president. She's like a very traditional Japanesey girly. She does like calligraphy and archery, and she has like a very fancy family. Like, she doesn't have a super ton of depth to her, but like, she has her character moments, and that is enough. Like, she has this like moral struggle of, should I move abroad to study or should I stay with my friends? And like, she chooses between pleasing her family and pleasing like herself, and I don't know, I really like that. She has like these really random moments where she just does really funny things. Like, she's kind of like Kyorakwa, she's kind of a dark horse for like fun moments. She has like a lot of like comic relief moments, and I think that's awesome. She has really cool fight scenes. Like, she can like whip up this big sword made of ice, and she always has like these real like badass scenes. I like the episode where they all shrink and they have to try and get big again and find the shrink ray that shrunk them, and it turns out that Kyo March is scared of bugs. I think that's a really funny episode. I have rewatched the season so many times, purely maybe because of Glitter Force. Like, that's like kind of a comfort thing for me and my sister to watch. Like, we'll just stick on Glitter Force, so I feel like I've seen Smile loads and loads of times. I've only watched it the whole way through in Japanese once, but I've seen the dub so many times, it kind of counts. This was the season that got me into Precure back in 2016 when it came out. I've just kind of followed the franchise ever since this one came out, and I watched it dubbed. Happy and Peace are like two of my favourite characters in like the whole franchise. They just are so special and wonderful and full of life and fun. It's a very simple season. Like, there's no like real convoluted backstories or like loads of confusing little plot lines to piece together. It's just simple, happy, Precure, fun times. I probably touched on the villains earlier. They're all storybook villains, and they are awesome. They are so much fun. They are like one of my favourite sets of villains in the whole franchise. There's the big bad wolf. There's this little witch lady. There's Aka Oni. He's like a big Oni guy. He's really funny. He's dumb. He has like one brain cell rattling around in there, and he's just always causing trouble for the villains and just causing trouble for himself. He makes me laugh so much. He is like the comic relief villain, and I love that for him. And then there is so he's called Joker, and I think they called him something else in the dub, so I always get a bit confused, but he's definitely called Joker in the original. I feel like he's called something like Jester or something really dumb in the dub. I'm gonna have to look into this one. He creeps me out. I don't like clowns very much, and they really like try and pull out the creepy card with this guy. They always like give him like these really uncanny like shots and camera angles, and he makes all these weird creepy faces. I don't like him. Like, he is as close to like being afraid of a cartoon like children's villain as I will ever come. I don't like this guy. The big bad is like Emperor Piero or something. He's like this big creepy clown face that we don't really ever see. And the whole thing with this series is like there's like this doomsday clock, and they have to collect bad energy from like people's despair to try and turn the clock and revive the emperor. And they do this twice throughout the series. They have like this weird like mid-season standoff with him, and then they kind of seal him away again, and then the bad guy's like, well, we've got to go even harder, we're bringing him back this time, I guess. It's a real fun season. Something I love in the series as well is the fairies. They are so cute. There is Candy and Pop. Candy's just really cute and scrunkly and little baby, and she has these little ears that like unroll and they style them into different hairstyles, and she has these big bows, and she's just so cute and sweet. I can't say anything bad about Candy. And then at the end of the series it turns out, whoa, she's like actually royal and magical. And Pop he's his little lion baby, and he turns into a human sometimes, I think, or like near enough a human. And he is really funny because he's like, yeah, look at me, I'm a big tough strong man. He's just a little baby. I love these fairies a lot. So yeah, Smile is, I don't know, can you tell I really like this season? I think everyone should watch Smile Precure. It should be like compulsory viewing for the whole wide world. It's so good. 2013. It's Doki Doki Precure. I had mixed feelings on this one initially. This is another series that got dubbed into Glitter Force, and they did Smile all right for Glitter Force, but Doki Doki, I couldn't get through it. It was, I don't know why, but it was just really bad. But like by dubbed anime standards, I couldn't get through it. The voice acting always felt off, and I didn't really understand where the plot was going because they cut out so many important episodes. But I rewatched this one recently. I was ill and I was working my way through my Precure. So I kind of just laid in bed and I binged my way through Doki Doki in just a couple of days, really. And it's a lot better than I remember it being. So the theme was like love and playing cards for the season. I don't know. I don't really get what they were going for. But each cure is named after like a playing card. So there's like Cure Heart, Diamond, Rosetta, and Sword. And then our mid-season is Cure Ace. Cure Heart is, you know, typical Precure protagonist. She is pink and she's outgoing, she's kind. People call her a Mary Sue because she's like naturally gifted at everything, and this kind of winds me up because I don't think you guys know what a Mary Sue is. Like, yeah, she's good at like everything, but she has her flaws, and people just completely overlook this and go, oh, she's a Mary Sue, there's like nothing to her. Her flaws all come from like how perfect she seems to be, because like underneath she isn't. Like, she's really overly emotional. I really liked this about her. Like, there's this whole ordeal with her befriending one of the villains, Regina, and it's really good. Regina is the daughter of the big bad guy of this season, and Regina goes through kind of like a moral struggle of, well, she's just a silly little girl, she wants to be friends with the Precures, and she's kind of morally conflicted over being good and evil because she feels like she's betraying her dad by being friends with the Cures, but she loves the Cures and she wants to be their friends and be a better person. And Regina gets taken away by the bad guys halfway through. They go, no, you're not allowed to be friends with them. We're taking you back to evil land and we're going to brainwash you into being more evil. And when this happens, Cure Heart is like devastated. She just doesn't know how to think rationally anymore. She's so clouded by her emotions, and people like completely overlook this part of her. Like, that's where her flaws come in. She can't handle her emotions. People don't like Cure Ace because she's like rational about this. So in the episode where Cure Heart is like really overcome by her grief and doesn't know what to do anymore, Cure Ace takes away her like transformation gem thing, and she's like, well, you don't deserve to be a Precure unless you can think straight. So she takes it away until Cure Heart can like clear her head and fight properly again, which is fair enough. I totally get it. And people don't get it. I don't understand what there is to not get. People think that Cure Ace is like really unnecessarily mean or anything. It's like, did we watch the same show? Cure Ace is like 10 years old and she's like a real little sweetheart. And she doesn't know who she is and where she's come from, and she just lives with like her adopted granny, and she like tries real hard to act like she's all grown up and mature, and she's actually like the sweet little girl who likes childish things. And I don't know, I liked her a lot. And the other characters in the season were Cure Sword. Again, I really like her, and people don't understand her. This is a season that people just either get or don't, and I think a lot of people don't get it, I'm afraid. Cure Sword is not a bitch like people say she is. She's like really cold and standoffish for like the first couple of episodes, because guess what? She's just gone through like horrible life-altering trauma. Well, yeah, like, of course she isn't going to be like super friendly and nice and like want to be friends with Cure Heart straight away. She's just lost like her home, she's lost her friends, she's lost the princess, she's lost like everything that she knew, and she's like been thrown onto Earth, and she's got to try and find her way back home and like save her kingdom somehow. And she's, oh bless her, I just want to give her a big hug. And I really like watching her like bonds with the others grow, and her learn to be a bit more chill and be like, yeah, maybe life doesn't totally suck. I think she is great. Cure Diamond she's like Cure Heart's best friend in school and like her childhood friend. They go through a load of stuff together and they become Precure together eventually. She is a sweet enough girl. I think she wants to be a doctor. I think she's the student council president. She's like a very generic blue Cure. There isn't a lot about her I can say. She has this really nice episode that stood out to me where so one of the villains is this boy called Ira, and he's like this teenage boy. He's a bit of a douche. He's silly, he's nice enough, whatever. I think he's also kind of morally conflicted, and he gets like hurt in a storm or something, and he gets like amnesia and he's really injured. So she takes him back to her place and she fixes him up and looks after him, and she like nurses him back to health, and the two of them like does a sort of bond, and it's really nice. I love it when stuff like this happens. And then he gets his memory back and goes back to being like a little douchey villain boy. But yeah, I think that was a really nice, and she was like, well, just because, you know, you're meant to be our enemy don't mean I have to treat you like dirt. And I don't know, it was nice. My favourite from this series is Cure Rosetta. Like, she's not like a super major part of the plot or like anything, but she is the best. She is like, something I've written here in my notes is that she is like Precure Batman. Precure Bruce Wayne is what I've written about her. So she is this rich girl. She's got a bit of a sheltered life. She has this servant called Sebastian who's really funny. They own like a lot of stuff. Her dad's like a CEO. They own like this big conglomerate, and they own like the Tokyo Tower, or the Clover Tower as they call it in this one. And basically she buys her way into being a Precure because she's got like the CCTV footage of like them fighting at the tower, and she's like, look, I know what happened here, but like you can, like, I can be like your she's like, I want to be like your manager or something. And they like kit him out with like all of this money and tech and stuff, and it's really funny. And then she's against being a Precure at first, and then she's afraid of like fighting and hurting people because of something that happened in the past, and then she takes a stand up for her friends and realizes she has to be a Precure to help her friends. It's super fun and nice, and her character episodes are so good. She is really, really fun and sweet. I don't want to give away too much, so it's nice learning about it as you go. The plot is really insane this season. There's a lot of like, I don't know how to explain it. So like, there's this princess and she's gone, and now it's like, oh, who's this, who's this, who's this, with all these different characters, and oh, they're all the princess. Regina's the princess. Curace is the princess. I'm the princess. Regina, I didn't talk about her much, but she's awesome. She's like one of the best villains ever. She's just cheeky and fun. People wish that she had been a Cure, and I understand this. People say she should have been the mid-season Cure instead of Ace, but it doesn't work. For the story to work, Regina couldn't have been the mid-season Cure. It had to be Ace, and people just don't seem to grasp it. But like, she becomes their friend and like teams up with them in the end, and it all works out happy and fun, so she's technically a Cure. Yeah, so the series ends with them like saving the world, and in the process they kind of reveal who they are, and then they become like government funded superheroes, and they just like, literally the last shot of the series is Mana, who's Cure Heart, answering a call on her phone like, hey president, what's up? And the president's like, oh, there's a meteor coming to Earth, can you guys like just go out and stop it? So all the Precures and Regina go out and stop this meteor. It's insane. I think every Precure season should end with them being government superheroes because it's just so wild. Oh, there's this bloke called Joe. He's the princess's fiance, it's revealed. He's like a royal knight. He wears a funny hat. He has this little ugly baby, who is also the princess from what I understand, and he's really sweet and funny. I really like him a lot. I wish he'd gotten a happier ending, bless his soul. I've talked an awful lot about this season, so I'm gonna take a break, have another sip of tea, and then we're gonna get into the more modern seasons. We're on the 10th anniversary. Happiness charge, Precure. I've actually I made a video about this one like last year. I had a lot of opinions about it after I watched it, so I feel like I don't need to go into like super deep detail about this one. I can kind of skim through this one. If you care about my thoughts on this series in their full depth, there's a video somewhere. So my opinions might have changed a little bit because I feel like I was a little bit harsh on it after I watched it, but it's a season that's really grown on me. The themes are supposedly like fashion and culture, maybe? So I'm gonna be real. I still do not like the international cures. I like them as a concept. I do not like the execution, because it's just, this series is like really, really like kind of racist, like in the worst ways. Like yeah, there's like obviously like the big glaring issues were like the racism, and there was like this really transphobic like villain character who appeared at one point in this series, I think, and I'd like totally completely forgotten about it until I saw someone post about it on Twitter the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, that was like super weird. And like for a show that came out in 2014, like that is especially like from Precure, like why did they do that? I like Kia Lovely a lot. I think she's neat. I think the fact that she's really unfashionable is really funny, considering the series' theme is fashion, and she's like constantly dressing herself in the worst fits known to man, and she's got to be like dressed by other people. Kia Princess is so good. People who are too harsh on her, she is awesome. She's really funny. She has really good character growth. Like she starts off kind of bratty and cowardly and kind of selfish, and then as the series progresses, she like loves her friends a lot. She gets better at like making good choices for herself and other people. She like puts other people's happiness before her own. She is lovely. Kyo Honey is, she's there, she's cool, she sings that song about rice. She's not a super deep character, but she is a sweetheart. She kind of like parallels Kyo Diamond, because she has an episode where she takes care of one of the villains, and she's like, well, just because we're on opposite sides doesn't mean I can't be nice to you again. And she nurses him back to health. She gives him like soup or something. That was nice. And Kyo Fortune, I love her to bits. She might be my favourite from this season. She is like Dr. Pepper because she's so misunderstood, you know? People literally just look at her and go, yeah, she sucks, she's really nasty. She's not. She is, again, a poor little traumatised purple girl. That's like 2 years in a row we've had poor little traumatised, misunderstood purple cures. Like, they need to give them a break. And, like, yeah, she's, again, like, she's kind of harsh on the others, and she gives them tough love when it's needed. And she's a bit standoffish, and she's hesitant to, like, trust and work with Kyo Princess because of, like, stuff that's happened in the past with them. But, like, you know, character development happens. She gets great. And she's like, you know, she's just traumatized because her sister's been like put in Precure jail or something by the Precure hunter. That was a really cool concept, by the way. So in this season, there was like Precures everywhere. It's not just like the like handful of girls who magically get to be a team. They're just like a thing that pop up like all over the world, because there's like this bloke who's the Precure god. He sucks. And he just like sends out these magic jewels that turn people into Precure or something. I can't really remember how it happens. And what was I saying? So yeah, being a Precure is like a really common thing, and like there's like a Precure channel on TV where like the news like covers what the Precures are up to all around the world. I watched this season while I was going for like a real rubbish time in my life, and it just got me through. It's a really fun season when you overlook the like glaring bad things that are in it. Like the characters are really fun, and there's like a fun dynamic going on with the team. It has like a weird art style. It's kind of like Heartcatch. I said this in my other video. The art style has grown on me since then. It's kind of Heartcatchy, but it's like nicer and cartoonier. I won't ramble on about the international cures too much. They're bad. They're a good concept. They have like their moments. The Aloha ones are really nice, but like, come on. I really hope they do try this concept again in the future, but like maybe not be racist about it. The villains are awesome. I love Oreski. I love the cute girl. I don't care about Moldy Man. Blue, the Precure god man, he sucks. Like from a moral standpoint. His whole thing, it's taken me like a whole year to kind of grasp it, because I didn't really process it when I was watching it. I knew he kind of sucked, but I couldn't put my finger on why. And I've had so many people explain to me that he's like basically just a douchebag. He kind of took advantage of Mirage, which then led her to being evil. And then like even when she like came back, it was like, oh, come on, girl, you shouldn't really be staying with him. And then like the whole like romance thing between him and Megumi is rubbish. especially when Seiji is literally right there and he is Megumi's age and he is in love with her and he's her best friend. I love Seiji so much, he's such a cool little dude. He is like Marco Diaz, he wears a red hoodie and he does karate and he's in love with the main girl and that's it really. I love him. Queen Mirage is a really cool villain. Her whole thing is that she got dumped or something and then like went completely evil, and I respect that for her. And she was a bait and switch for a bigger, badder, more mysterious villain who turns out to be Blue's brother called Red, which is really creative. The attacks for the season are all like power up dance things. They've got like this like dress up machine, you know those like dress up sticker books, and you could put the different outfits over them and mix and match them. So it's like one of those, and they slot in these different cards to make different outfits. In battle they can slot in like a Hawaiian outfit or like a Arabian Nights one, which was really racist again. And there's so much racism just like casually underlying in this series, and like I don't know how they got away with it. And basically, and there's like a samba one as well, which is really bizarre to me. I think they're all meant to be based on different dance styles, but it just wasn't really executed that well, and they use those to power up and do different attacks, which is kind of cool, but I don't know. There's like a lot of glaring issues with the season again, but I love it dearly. I wish they'd just, you know, maybe not have so many issues. Innocent mode is the main power up. They have like this dresser, and like kind of the whole gimmick for like finding their power up in the second half of the season is like they have to discover their innocent feelings, whatever that may be. And it's usually just something like love and friendship and something, and they need to discover like a deep like feeling they have so they can get the courage to power up, and it's awesome. That is my thoughts on this series condensed down real tight and nice. I've got like a 50-minute video essay lingering around somewhere if you really care that much about what I think of the 10th anniversary season. Not Heartcatch, Happiness Charge. See, even the names are similar. The year is 2015. What could possibly be next for the Precure franchise after the 10th anniversary? It's Go Princess. It is one of my favourite seasons. It's incredible. I was so dubious about this season before I watched it because I was like, oh well, it's a show about princesses. How good can it be? Because, you know, I've never been a Disney princess girly. I actually really do not like Disney princesses. I like Rapunzel. That's where I draw the line. So yeah, the theme for the season is princesses and dreams, and it's super sweet. There is this girl, her name is Haruno, and she turns into Kira Flora. Her whole thing is that her dream, when she grows up, she wants to be a princess. She loves the storybook about the Princess of Flowers, and that's it. That's her whole life. She's always wanted to be the princess. And when she is a child, and she is being picked on at school because everyone's like, you can't be a princess when you grow up, that's dumb. And she's having a little cry in a field. This mysterious little boy who's a prince appears behind her and he goes, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can be a princess. Here you go, have this magic key. And then he vanishes again. And then it skips to like a few years later when she's a teenager and she's heading off to this fancy private school. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to be a princess when I grow up. She doesn't give up this dream ever. Everyone tells her this dream is stupid and it's impossible. She can't be a princess, and she never ever gives up. And that's something I love about this season. That the message is, no matter how ridiculous your dreams may seem, you just keep fighting for them, no matter what other people think. I think that is awesome. She has my favourite, like one of my favourite character designs ever. Like, it's easily in my top 3 character designs in the whole franchise. I think she is fantastic. She is so pretty. Her dress is so nice. Her friends are Cure Mermaid, Minami, the student council president. She wants to be a vet. Yeah, she has like this dolphin friend called Tina. She's kind of expected to take over her parents' business or something. But her whole character arc is like about learning to do what she wants to do, and she like meets this like vet lady when she's out at like this business thing one day, and she just decides, yeah, I'm gonna chase my own dream, I'm gonna be my own person, I want to be a vet and look after the sea creatures, and I think it's awesome. I like Tina the dolphin. And then there is Cure Twinkle, not to be confused with Cure Sparkle. She is awesome. She's a model. She basically, her whole thing is that she wants to be like a supermodel, like her mum, who's a really, really famous model. And she's like kind of cheeky and sassy, and she's really fun, and she's a really good friend. And again, she has really awesome design. And she's just a really like all-round fun character. I love her to bits. She is just an icon, and she has a lot of really fun character moments. Okay, I totally lost my train of thought for a moment because I got distracted. And I've been talking for like 2 hours, and I was like, oh. I was talking about Go Princess Rikia. Yeah, the character design in this series is incredible, like I said a minute ago. There's this side character, her name is Yui. She is just a normal girl, and that's it. There's like no gimmick, she's just their friend. And she knows all their secrets and everything, and she's awesome. And I love it when Precure do that with characters. Like, I don't know, maybe she was kind of like a red herring for a mid-season cure, but like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about her other than that I really like her. And her character episodes are really fun. She wants to be like a story writer, and like she gets picked on a lot by the villains to like take her dream and turn it evil. Wow, wow, wow. And she is really, really sweet and nice. And there are fairies. There's a little puppy called Pafu, and there is a little birdie called Aroma, and they are apparently siblings. They come from the royal kingdom where the prince Kanata, who gave Flora the key when she was little, they are like his friends. They want to grow up to be like his butlers or staff or something. They're like training to be, they're training to do something like that. The mid-season cure is Cure Scarlet. She is originally a villain called Twilight. She is actually Kanata's sister who has been brainwashed by the dark evil people. The Despair? Yeah, so the bad guy is Queen Despair, and she destroyed not Dark Kingdom, she destroyed the Hope Kingdom, I think it was called, and she like turned it into the Dark Kingdom and took it over basically. So they have to fight to save the Hope Kingdom from Queen Despair. And her little lackeys are these dudes called Close, Shut, and Lock. They are a super cool bunch of villains. Close is like almost kind of terrifying. He is a horrible, irredeemable gremlin. And even in the last episode where he has a chance at redemption, he's like, no. And he just sort of sulks off into the distance, never to be seen again. The other villains kind of get redemption, so Locke is the little one in the hoodie. Apparently, I've had to look through my notes. He is actually a fairy from the Hope Kingdom who's been brainwashed by the bad guys, and they save him like quite early on in the series. And he's just a little dude who hangs around and looks like puppy eyes sad. Then there is Shut. He is like this icon. He's like, he does this makeup really cool, and he's like super fashionable in camp, and I really like him a lot. I think he's quite a very beloved character. There's like this one episode where he just hangs out with the Cures and they teach him to do his makeup nicely, and like one of them's doing makeup with him and the other's like trying to fight the monster of the week in the background. It is really funny. There's this thing called the Princess Pad, and they do princess lessons with it. And there's this little fairy who lives inside it, and she's this little French cat. She's called Lady Chamois, I think. And she can turn into like this sassy human woman. And she's like, hello, oh oui oui, today I teach you to be a princess, wah wah. And I don't know why she's French, but she just does a lot of random French words all the time. And she is really cool. I like her a lot. And I forget she exists, and then I remember and I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome, they did that. So there's like this incredible climax in the series, like as there is usually with a Precure season, where Kanata, the prince, he comes down to Earth and he's like got amnesia. I can't remember how it happens. I think he has a fight with the bad guys and escapes, and he's like lost his memory. And they're all like, oh no, we'll have to look after him. And they try and like look after him and restore his memory. And he's talking to Haruka in one episode. And don't forget, this is the guy who like literally told her as a child to chase for her dreams, and he gave her the means to go on and chase that dream. And it's kind of implied that there's like some kind of romantic thing going on between them. And so because he's lost his memory, he's talking to her about her dream of being a princess, and he's like, well, isn't that impossible? Why would you want to chase that dream? And he tells her to like give up or something. And it's been a hot minute since I watched this series, so I don't fully remember what exactly he says, but it's enough to like to kind of send her into like this horrible depression-y trance. And she's like so struck by horror and like grief and sadness that he'd say like these things to her, that she like doesn't even have like the power to transform anymore because she's not got any hope in her heart. And so she's kind of like just stuck in this state where she can't do anything for like an episode or so because she's just so miserable. And then after a while there's like this big fight with clothes in like the middle of the town, and she sees all this explosions from far away and she knows her friends are fighting, so she runs down there, and then like the most incredible scene in the whole series happens. There's like a real-time transformation. She like has this little argument with clothes about whether or not she can chase her dreams, and he tells her it's pointless and it's stupid, and she goes, actually no, you know what, it's not pointless or stupid to have my own dreams. And then she like puts on her little transformation crown and her dress goes pow, when there's like loads of flower petals flying around everywhere, and then her hair puffs out and she's like transforming in real time, and she's like, don't you ever tell me to give up on my dreams again. And she's back and she's that girl. Oh my god, it's fantastic. I watch this clip so often because I'm just like, wow, it's really good. It's such a good season. Like, I cannot put into words how much I love Go Princess. It's another season where they have an identity reveal at the end, because like the bad guys like kind of bring the fight to the fancy private school, and there's like all these like dark vines growing, and they're trying to trap all the students and steal their dreams, and Despair herself rocks up, and they've got no choice but to transform in front of everyone. And they're like, oh wow, so those magical princesses we've seen protecting the school are you? It's really good. I love identity reveals. And something really clever they did with this series, it's kind of a spoiler, but if you don't want to hear of it, then just skip ahead, I guess. So there's this episode where they meet this book author who wrote the Flower Princess book, and Haruka asks her, why did you never write a sequel? Because when I was a kid, I always wanted to know what happened to her next. And the author says, I didn't give her an ending because I wanted everyone to make up their own ending for her, because people would be disappointed if I didn't write the ending they wanted. So if you use your imagination, you can decide your ending for yourself, and then everyone's happy. And then at the end of the series, we kind of get this time skip, and we're not really sure what's happened to Haruka. We can see that her friends have all gotten their dreams, like Towa, who is I never explained, she's Twilight, Cure Scarlet, whatever. She's like ruling over her kingdom like she should be. And there's oh, what's her name again? My brain is frazzled. There's Kirara, and she's like a supermodel, like she's always dreamed. And there's Minami looking after the sea animals like she dreamed. But Haruka's just stood in a field. She's holding her key, and like the wind is blowing her hair. We don't really see her face, so we just wonder what's happened to her. I think that's really clever. So the whole idea is that we make up our own ending for Haruka. So I like to believe that she did go on to become a princess and that she's living her best life. But who knows what's happened? I love that. It's so good. So yeah, this is one of the best, if not the best series in the whole franchise. It's such a magnificent season. Like I am really silly for ever underestimating how good a princess show could be. It's so good. Like my brain is absolute scrambled egg right now. I cannot put any clever words out there to say how much I love Go Princess Precure. So we've talked about Go Princess, and I've gotten very excited about that. And now we need to chill out. We'll talk about 2016. This was the year I got into Precure, and the season that was airing at the time was Mahoutsukai Precure. So this is a season I don't particularly care for very much. So before I get like beaten to death, let me explain. I love the characters so much. I think the characters in this are so good. I think the theme and like the concept is very clever, but I just don't think they executed it very well. So yeah, like literally my first note here is that they're really good characters kind of wasted on kind of a bland, repetitive plot. It's tiring to watch. It's reminiscent of Sweet in the way that they like have all these squabbles all the time, and it kind of just drags on for ages. So fun fact, the movie for this season was like the first proper Japanese Precure like media I ever consumed. So I went straight from Glitter Force to So I watched Glitter Force, and then I found out that Precure was a thing and that there was tons of it to watch. And I went on YouTube desperate to see if I could find like an episode or anything, and the entire movie was on YouTube at the time, so I watched that. I was so confused. I was like, is this really the same franchise? Why are they like witches and stuff? But the movie is absolutely brilliant. So like there's this divide between the magical world and the non-magical world. There's like Mirai, who comes from Earth, the non-magical world, and then there's Liko, who comes from the magical world. And it's like Harry Potter if it was good and not horrifically bigoted and awfully written. And it's like a cool concept. So like then the two worlds aren't really meant to mix, but then these two mix and it causes all kinds of like trouble and adventures and antics, and it's a lot of fun. I love the concept, but like it suffers from sweet syndrome where they bicker too much and it's really silly, and like you don't really believe they're meant to be friends at some point. It's like, oh, this is just exhausting. And they look after this little baby fairy. She's called Hachan, and she turns into Cure Felice as the mid-season cure. She gets like this magic emerald and she kicks butt. I love her. Her design is super pretty. Like there isn't a great deal to say about this season because again it's like kind of slow and it drags, and I really wish I could love this season, but they didn't do enough to make me want to love it more than I do. They do this thing which is super cool. Instead of like doing massive like power-ups as like a big woo, so they transform with a different gemstone. They have to collect these gemstones. They can transform with different ones, and they get different forms when they transform, and they obviously get like different powers and stuff. It's kind of like how in Splash Star they can be either like Bloom and Egret, or they can be Windy and Bright, but they keep the same cure names. They just get like different costumes. I'll pop some pictures here. It's cool. It's a really good concept, and I don't know where I was going with this. It's just something I liked, I guess. Their fairy is, along with Hachan, they have Mofrun. He, she, they are a teddy bear. So Mofrun is Mirai's childhood teddy bear and kind of like Mirai's best friend. And like somehow Mofrun comes to life with like Precure magic, and they transform with Mofrun, which is really funny. They have to be holding hands with Mofrun. They have to slot the gem into Mofrun's bow tie to transform, and it's a really sweet little series, I guess. It's not something I can watch tons and tons of. Like I just kind of watched the important plot relevant episodes of the series again. Like the non-relevant ones just really tired me out. It's a really good soundtrack. Again, it has an awesome theme song, and the theme song has 2 versions throughout the series, and it's a shame because all of the worst seasons seem to have the best theme songs. Character designs go hard. The ending, like I didn't care much for the whole series, but the last couple of episodes is the like most heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, tear-jerking thing in Precure. It hurts so much. I was in floods of tears watching this. My nose was dripping. I was inconsolable. It hurt a lot to watch. I won't even touch on the ending because it broke me so bad, and you've really got to go in blind to really have your heart torn out. It's getting a sequel next year. I'll go into detail in this in like a separate video maybe, but they're doing like an adult-based sequel, kind of like Looking for Magical Do-Re-Mi, but it's actually going to be about the characters, not like a spin-off-y sort of thing. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. Overall, this is like kind of like a middle ground season. It's not something I super care for, but I wouldn't go as far as to say I straight up dislike the season like I do with like maybe Sweet. It's just there. It's just okay. People love this season, which is nice. I like seeing it get love, but I personally struggle with this season. It's a difficult watch, really, which is a shame since it has its real high points. We are about to talk about one of my favourite seasons ever, 2017, Cura Cura Pretty Cure a la mode. This series is everything to me. It is fantastic. It's like they just grabbed a load of things that I love and mushed it all together to make a Precure season. There is animals, there is sweets and baking, and there is friendship, and there is so much packed into this. There's redemption villains, there is cool fairies, there's conflict and moral conflict, and there's like so much nuance to the character. This is the season. I will put my hand on my heart and say I genuinely believe that this series has the best cast of characters in the whole franchise. They are the most well-rounded, the most, like, I don't know, I can't explain it, they're so well written. Each character has their own, like, real, like, depth to them. There's not a bad character in this cast. Like, I genuinely struggled to pick a favourite cure from this season because they are all so brilliantly written. So first we've got Cure Whip. She's like, you know, generic Genki pink lead cure as always. But like underneath all of this like happy-go-luckiness, she has like this real like struggle with wanting to please people, and she doesn't want people to think that she's sad like ever. So her mum works abroad as a doctor, helping out in like foreign countries, so her mum's away all the time and she never gets to see her mum, and this makes her really, really sad. But she feels like if people know this, especially if her mum knows this, then it'll hurt them. So she kind of bottles up her feelings, and she's happy all the time, and she has these moments where she can't hold it in anymore, and it really like breaks her down. And God bless her soul, I love Ichiko Sami so much. She's got the best character design. Like, maybe in the whole franchise she could possibly be my favourite pink cure, but I can't decide because I love pink cures a lot. Like, she embodies everything I love. I'm making a cosplay of her. I love her so much. She's a bunny, and she's pink, and she's strawberries and cake, and she is the best. And then there's Cure Custard, and she is like super heavily implied to be autistic. She is amazing. She's like this little sweet scientist gremlin. She is obsessed with sweets, and ever since she was a kid she's been obsessed with like reading books about sweets and baking and stuff, and she tells people all these fun facts that she learns from the books, and all the other kids at school think she's weird and don't want to be her friend because she doesn't like the stuff they like, and she likes weird things, and it makes my heart ache every time she's on screen. I love her so much. She's a little squirrel, and her thing is pudding. Like, she has a pudding dress, and her favourite sweets are puddings, and oh, she's so cute. And then there is Cure Gelato. She is awesome. She kind of like falls under like one of my favourite character tropes to ever exist, which is like the kind of poor little rich girl trope. She is like, it's a shocking plot twist that she is like this rich girl from a super like well-established like high up family, and she like lives in a mansion, and she doesn't like that lifestyle. She just wants to be like a punk rocker and wear like her leather jackets and play guitar in her rock band, and her family don't approve of this very much. Like, one of her first focus episodes like reveals that she's this rich girl and not like this cool punk that everyone sees her as, and that she's kind of expected to conform to her family's standards, and she's meant to be the heir to the family, and like they're trying to get her to stop playing guitar and wear all these fancy dresses and go to fancy events and host like the family parties and things, and she hates it. It's awesome. I love her so much. She's such a good character. I think she gets overlooked a lot. She's really, really cool. Her name is Aoi, and she is literally blue. That's so funny. I named my car after her. And then we have Cure Macaron. She is... I feel like she's a character who doesn't get understood very well. Like, some people seem to kind of get it, and then some people just seem to completely miss the point in her character. So she suffers from depression, basically. If that is the surface of it. She is really, really well written and like very nuanced. So like, she comes from a more traditional Japanesey family. She's very glam, very sophisticated, she's very mature, she's very like beautiful, and everyone loves her and thinks she's perfect, but like her whole thing is like, she isn't perfect like people think she is. Like, she like really suffers with her depression, and she doesn't feel alive, and she wants to find things that are exciting and make her feel alive, and like make her feel like life is worth living, and that like there are good things in the world, because she thinks that her day-to-day life, like how it is really boring, and she's not really got anything going for her. She's awesome. She is like kind of really cunning and smart, and she outwits the villains. She's very like insightful. could say a lot of good things about Macaron. I think she is a really, really awesome character. And there is Kyo Chocolat. She is like the kind of boyish one. She's not really a tomboy, but she has like the boyish design. Her introduction episode where Ichika thinks that she's a boy and like has a crush on her, and then as soon as she finds out that she's a girl, she's like, oh, that's quite funny. She is really nice. She has a little sister who's like really sick and in hospital all the time, and she loves her little sister a lot. She like makes her chocolates and looks after her, and I think she wants to be like a nurse or something when she grows up because of how she's looked after her sister all her life. I'd say maybe Chocolat is kind of the least like fleshed out character in the cast, but still like has a lot of interesting things about her. I feel like I can't say as much as I can for her with the others, but she's like a really solid, nice character. She is very sweet, very loving, and her and Macaron are in love. It is not subtle like at all. Like the season really didn't really hold back, and I love them for that. Finally, our mid-season cure Parfait. She's actually the fairy Picarin. I'm literally watching the season for the second time at the moment, and I cannot remember her name. I'm sure it's Picarin. Kirarin. I got mixed up with Picarin. Kirarin. She's got this twin brother who gets like brainwashed by the evil guys, and it's like her whole character conflict comes from trying to save him, and she feels bad because she never realised that she was hurting him by like kind of being inattentive to his feelings. She's awesome. She's a sweet girl. She's like a Pegasus. Her whole thing is like parfait. She's French. She's like, oh, it's parfait means perfect like me, but she's not perfect. She's like quite flawed deep down. I love this series so much. Can you tell? It gave us like some really iconic bangers in the soundtrack. Like the opening it's a banger. It gave us 2 awesome endings. It gave us Shooby-Dooby Sweets Time. That's like the anthem of the Precure fandom. It gave us really awesome villains. Like we kind of cycle through villains really quick in this series. Like at the start, there's all these little creatures that wreak havoc, and then Rio turns up, and then he gets defeated, and then Bibri turns up, and then that's kind of where the villains like kind of end for me. I don't remember much about the villains. I know there's Grave. I know there's someone else. I know there might be another one after that. I know there is Noir as the big bad, who isn't really that much of a threat like overall. His whole thing is that that this girl that he liked wouldn't make sweets for just him and no one else, so he decided to become evil. It's like a proper weird character. It's like, it's probably one of the worst big bad motivations, but I can overlook it because everything else about this season is absolutely wonderful. People complain about the fights in the season because they kind of got watered down and made less physical, because I think parents were complaining about the violence in Precure a little bit. So they tried something new this season, and they kind of used their magic more. They have these magic wands and it shoots out whipped cream, and I personally think this is awesome. They do like loads of really creative stuff with it. Like they make lassos and they make shields and they make different like shapes to help them fight in the battles and stuff, and I think they did, and they choreograph it really well, and I really really like it, I think, and it fits the theming really well because they're shooting up whipped cream and they're bakers. Like, come on. What's on my notes for this one? I've mentioned the soundtrack already. So something I haven't really mentioned is that every season of Precure kind of gets like its own soundtrack with character songs in, which is kind of like a very old-fashioned anime thing now. I don't think they do it much anymore, but Precure kind of sticks to that tradition. Every season we get character songs, and this bunch of character songs is probably my favourite in maybe the whole franchise. I like the Smiles ones a lot, but I think this one takes the cake, haha, pun, for the best bunch of character songs. It actually gave us my favourite character song ever, which is Cure Gelato's character song, which is called Blue Sky Alright. It's awesome. I love rock music, so it's like my song really. Cat Meets Sweets is Cure Macaron's character song. It's like a close contender for like favourite. It's I have a lot of thoughts about this series, can you tell? And the endings, of course, are like really iconic from this one. The first one kind of gets overlooked because of how popular and like fantastic the second one is, but I love the first one as well. I performed it at a con last summer. I love this series soundtrack. I feel like this is one I could talk about for absolutely ages. I won't go into too much more detail because I feel like I've not shut up about Kira Kira Precure. The character designs are maybe my favourite in like the whole franchise. They are so good. They're so well themed, like everything just works in this season. I've got a note that says too much French. I think that's probably a reference to CL being French and just going like wee wee all the time. Yeah, silly little season. I love it a lot. Maybe one of my favourites. Who knows? I love Precure too much to choose a favourite. Here's a fun one to talk about. We're in 2018 now. We're nearly at the end. You can nearly stop listening to me ramble. Hugto Precure. This was the 15th anniversary of the series. The themes for this one are like careers and like adulthood and coming of age and stuff like that, and there's a baby. That's what put me off this season initially, was the baby. I watched the first episode and maybe the second as well in like one sitting, and the baby just like did my head in so bad. I kind of had to take a step back, and it really took me a few episodes to start enjoying this season. Pure Yell is the lead in this series, and I wasn't sure what I thought of her at first, but actually she's pretty neat. I like her wonky fringe trim because I do that a lot too. Actually, I like that she commits to it even as a grown adult. In the end, she's still got her wonky fringe going on. There's Cure Ange. Her thing is like angels. I don't really understand why her theme was angels when it's like a career theme season. Everyone else seems to have kind of career-y vibes going on. Oh, hello, puppy. So Kira is kind of like a weird outlier in this season. Her whole thing is that she wants to be an actress like her mum, and then realises halfway through the series, actually, maybe I don't want to be an actress. Maybe I want to find my own thing that I want to do with my life. So she ends up wanting to be a doctor because, you know, she's a blue cure. Whatever career path does she have? Cure Etoile, I think that's how you say it. I don't French. She is interesting enough, but I kind of wish they had done a bit more with her. She's kind of like this tomboyish ice skater with a lot of like trauma due to her ice skating and stuff, and she kind of has to work through all her issues and stuff, and then her character in the end just kind of relies on having a crush on Harry the hamster. Yeah. So she falls in love with this hamster who is, I didn't mention him before, he's like one of the mascots for this season. He's a little hamster dude. He turns into a man. He comes to Earth with the little baby. Yeah. So she obviously falls in love with him, and then her whole character arc is about dealing with him not loving her back, which is, it was alright. I just kind of wish it hadn't been her defining arc, you know? I wish they had done a bit more with her. Like, it was really beautifully done the way they did deal with it, kind of. I really liked the Little Mermaid episode when they all get sucked into a Little Mermaid story, and she kind of has to deal with the ending where she can't be with him. The mid-seasons are Cure Ma Chérie and Cure Amour. More French, that's fun. There's a lot of French this season. They're kind of like a duo deal. I didn't think I'd like them like at all. I watched a lot of All Stars before I actually got around to properly watching Hugto, and I didn't really care much for any of the characters. I especially didn't like Ma Chérie. I didn't like her stupid annoying little catchphrase at the end of like every sentence. I thought I was gonna hate Hugto just from like the All Stars movies that I'd seen. So I was really pleasantly surprised that she was actually like a really good character. She's just a sweet little girl. She's a poor little rich girl. She has my heart, and she just wants to play guitar. She's kind of like Cure Gelato, really. And her family, her brother doesn't approve of like anything. Her brother sucks. And then he goes through character development, so it's fine. And then she becomes friends with Cure Amour, and they become like this guitar playing best friends, big sis, little sis duo. It's really sweet. Cure Amour starts off as this villain called Lulu. She comes and she's an android. That's super cool. She like poses as this girl who's friends with Hannah Curiel, and she like moves in with them for some reason. I can't really remember why. And then she like tries to betray them when they least expect it, and then it turns out, oh no, we're friends now. So it wasn't as good as Cure Passion. if it kind of felt a bit rushed, but I really enjoyed it anyway because I do like my redemption arcs. Yeah, they're a real sweet little. It's fun that they became the mid-season together. Like their friendship was so strong that like the one remaining little cure phone transformation thing split into two so they could both be precures. I thought that was really sweet. I like Harry the hamster. He's a funny little dude. I like the villains a lot. This had a really strong villain cast, and I like that when they became redeemed, they sort of just became like comedic side characters on Earth. I love the YouTuber vlogger guy who thinks he's like really ripped. He makes me laugh a lot. And I like the pretty lady with the hair. What was her name again? It'll come to me and I'll be kicking myself. There is so this note says there is a lot of childbirth in this show. And I'm not lying, I think there's like 2 or 3 episodes that are like explicitly are about giving birth. And it's super jarring that the series ends with us watching Hannah give birth to a baby. Like, it's just, it was proper like, oh, it really, I thought it was a joke when I heard people talking about it, but then I sat through the clip and I watched it and like, oh, she's actually like giving birth. We're actually watching a character in a children's show give birth. This is so weird. I love the running joke that this series was like a government ploy to try and increase the birth rate in Japan. I think that's really funny, even though I think it got disproven. Yeah, I have a lot of nice things to say about Kiramura and Kiramashiri, apparently. I love that they have like this twin guitar attack, and they like they shred out together before like using their guns as, they use their guitars as guns, like bazookas, and go pew, shoot them with like love beams. I have a lot of complaints about the baby being annoying. Just, I don't like babies. I'm sorry, Hugtan. George, man, screw that guy. Am I right? I understand his motivations. That doesn't mean I have to like him or I have to support him. I think he proper sucks. I think he should have dealt with all of his grief in a better way. I'm not gonna give away what George's whole thing was, because I was really confused watching through the series. I think everyone else deserves to suffer that kind of confusion as well. I don't really care for the soundtrack of this series. I didn't like the theme song. I skip the theme song every episode. I skip the transformations every episode because I can't deal with the noises they make during it. Why did they do that? And the endings, they're alright. I've got them on my little CD player in my car, but I don't really listen to them. So one of my favourite highlights of this season, actually, is the episode where we're kind of learning more about Harry's backstory and how he's from the future, and he works with Kyo Tamaro, who is, spoilers, the baby who has come back to save the Earth. And Harry has been like brainwashed by these bad guys, and Kyo Tamaro is trying to help him out, and she says something along the lines of, maybe I'm like paraphrasing it or something here, but she says something along the lines of, well, we can't change your past, but we can work for a better future together. And that is like, I think that's what's really stuck with me from this season. I was like, wow, yeah, that really spoke to me. Like, yeah, that's profound. I like that. Like, that is kind of one of the central themes of this season, is that like, instead of holding on to your past and trying to change the past, you should be looking to the future, and you should be trying to work for the best future for yourself that you can. And I really, really liked that, and it's something I needed at the time when I watched it, I think. And I think it's a really good message, especially for the 15th anniversary. And yeah, that's it. It was like such a crazy season, I forget it's the anniversary one. So like, we had like cameos from like all the past cures in like a few episodes. That was really cool. They all got like sucked into like this space-time vortex to come help fight bad guys in one episode. That was really fun. Especially because it just makes the pre-cure timeline like even more confusing. Like the Kira cures were like adults, and then they get sucked in and they're back as their teenage selves fighting alongside the others. I think that's every intelligent thought I have about this series. It's a crazy one, so I don't want to like give away too much about it. Overall, it's like, it's a well-loved season, and I can see why. Like, I wouldn't put it like right at the top with all my favourites, but it's a solid, really enjoyable season. I think, yeah, I could happily sit and watch again. It's really emotionally charged. There's a lot of gut punches. There's a lot of thought-provoking stuff in there. It's pretty good. 2019, and that is Star Twinkle. It's a fantastic season. I think about this season like every day. So the themes were space and imagination, and I started rewatching this season recently because now that I've finished all of the precures, what do I do but rewatch my favourites? And so I really didn't appreciate the first time around just how well they played into all the themes of like space and imagination, and like in the first episode, like when Star's drawing out her constellations in her little notebook, and her imagination like takes her out to space and she's dreaming up all these new things. It's awesome. And like the way they draw out who they want to be when they're transforming, and it draws on all the themes so cleverly. It uses space so well, it builds up the worlds really well. There's just so much, it's packed full of good things. This is definitely one I would recommend to someone who wants to get into Precure. It's what Precure is all about to me. It's just fun. There's a lot of like really funny episodes, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of suspense. It's insane. I have a lot of notes about this. I have so many thoughts. Star, she is a really good protagonist. She is maybe a little bit naive. She is fantastic. I will defend her with all of my life. She's a bit of an autism creature again, so that's maybe why I like her so much. She is obsessed with like space and looking at the stars and constellations and learning about the world around her. She's just so full of awe and wonder for life in the world. I think she's really awesome. Milky, she is a super popular character, and I think it's really obvious why. Like, come on, she's an alien. She's like, I think she's a really uniquely coloured Kyo. I love the debate over whether she's green or blue. She's green. I loved her kind of like, I'm rewatching it and I really appreciate the little conflict that she has like with herself about how Hikaru became a Precure and then she didn't initially, and finding out that they had the same odds of becoming a Precure, and really the only thing like that set them apart was like how much they believe in themselves. And I liked watching her grow as a character, and I liked watching her adapt to Earth life and all of the stuff that happens in space. She has like so much going on out there. She's got like her family back on her home planet. She's like, oh, she's on the run from the space police for some reason. She's really cool. She's got an awesome design. She's a lot of fun. I'm gonna have to stop there. I'm gonna ramble on about Kyo Milky for so long. And there's also Kyo Celine. I think if we're going in, no. So yeah, it's Kyo Celine and Kyo Soleil, but Kyo Soleil debuts before Celine, so I'll talk about Kyo Soleil. She is the first Precure of colour, like ever, and the only one so far, if I'm not mistaken. It makes me a little bit sad because Star Twinkle was, what, the 16th season, and it's taken them that long to get a proper main character of colour represented well. And like apparently the writers had to really fight the higher ups to have Kyo Soleil in the show. And that's like kind of my gripe with Precure, is that for a show there's like it's so like it aims to be so inclusive and so thoughtful of like everyone, and it tries to be like this all-encompassing like embodiment of love, but they are so bad with like representing other cultures and races. It makes me a little bit sad, but that's like their one weakness. So Kyo Soleil was like a real nice breath of fresh air for me. She's like this Mexican girl who's moved over because her parents have like cool jobs. Like her mum's a translator and her dad like runs a florist shop or something. I could be imagining this totally wrong. She's kind of like Kyo. She's a big sister. She's a real sweetheart. She has a lot of little siblings. I love that we see her family dynamic, and I really liked that there was kind of like this arc about like discrimination with her as well. Like they really did pull out, like for the one character that they have who's like of a different race, they did pull it out really well. That like, yeah, she was discriminated against in school because she looks different, and that she's she went through this whole phase of like trying to accept herself for being different and being a different race. Is a really sweet message, and I think we need more of that in Precure. Okay, let's talk about Kyo Celine. She is pretty and purple. She's kind of like a traditionally Japanese girl again. She does archery. Her dad is like a UFO government man who hunts down aliens and cryptids and stuff and like puts them in jail or something. Her dad sucks. I like that she learns to stand up for herself and her own beliefs, and she goes against her dad, and she feels like she's doing the wrong thing, but like she learns that she's doing the right thing because she's protecting her alien friends and stuff from the government catching them to do whatever it is they're planning to do. She's a real sweet little girl. There's not like a crazy amount of depth to her. I like the episode when they're in space and they're doing that auction and she bids using donuts, and she's like, yeah, this is more valuable than everyone's money. So they win this auction for something. I think it's one of the pens that they're hunting down, actually. So the plot of this one is they've got to find these star color pens to revive the star princesses. And obviously the bad guys are after these pens, and like everyone in the universe is after these pens because they're like kind of like super valuable and powerful. The transformations in this series are so good. It's the only series where they sing while transforming. They've got this little cool song that they sing about like drawing who they want to be, twinkle twinkle pretty cure and stuff like that. It's so much fun. And the animation for the transformation is like, wow, it proper scratches my brain real good. So I've written a note here. I forgot how fast paced this series is. Like the first episode, like so much happens in like the first 10 minutes, and then like more happens and you're like, what? It's like, by Precure standards, like quite a lot happens in the first episode. I have such bad hiccups. I've said about the character development thing here again, but Celine and Soleil do not get as much development as the others. Like Milky, Star and Cosmo, like I don't really get a great deal. But sorry, my brain just totally fuzzed out from it there. I've been talking about Precure since 10:30 and it's now 2:15 in the afternoon. So, like I said this earlier, so I won't go over it again. I don't think characters need to be super groundbreaking and super like deep and like nuanced and stuff to be good characters. Like them being nice girls is enough for me. I love the villains this series. I think Capard, the little Kappa dude, he's really funny. I1 is really, really cool. I love her storyline. I don't know what the deal with the red lady with the big nose is. Like, she is like expelled from her society for not having a big enough nose or something. She's an interesting one. There's a big twist villain at the end, which I won't spoil. I think it has to be gone into blind. I know I started to do spoilers in this video, but I cannot spoil Star Twinkle. I can't bring myself to do it. The pacing in the season's really good, but like around the sort of second half of the season, it feels weird, and I can't put my finger on why. Like, I thought the whole season would be them trying to rescue the 12 princesses, but then they rescue all 12 princesses, and then they go on to like find like their power-ups, and they have to hunt down this thing called Twinkle Imagination. And the pacing just feels kind of weird, and it feels kind of aimless. And I can't explain it because I love this series and I love all of it. Like, but the second half of the season just feels really, really weird to me, and like they weren't sure what they were doing. I haven't even spoken about the little fairy dudes. There's this alien blue blobby thing. He is called Puddins. He's like a squishy blue blob thing. Kyo Milky wears him like a backpack, which is really funny. And there's this little fluffy puff of delight called Fuwa. I love Fuwa until kind of like the mid-season point where she starts growing up, and then I just don't really like her very much. She turns into this unicorn thing. She becomes really annoying. But yeah, the whole idea of the series is to protect Fuwa as well. They're protecting Fuwa from someone in space. I think the bad guys want Fuwa because she's like some kind of vessel for great power. And oh yeah, because I didn't think they put like the power-up pens into Fuwa sometimes for some reason. I'll probably remember all this when I finish my rewatch. But she has like a lot of power, and the bad guys want to use that. So along with rescuing the princesses and restoring space to like harmony and balance, they've also got to protect this little fluffy thing. The design of this season is so good. All of the character designs are awesome. The items I particularly like. I really like the transformation items, the pens and the ink bowl, and you dip it in and you pull it out and you draw with magic. It's so good. There's a real nice little details. Like, someone busted their whole ass to design all of these items. I haven't even talked about Cure Cosmo yet. She has a really cool mid-season cure. So her thing is like, she's a shapeshifter. She's from this planet that the bad guys have wiped out. She's like kind of morally grey. She's she shapeshifts and she acts like she's a butler for the bad guys in one disguise, but then in another disguise she is a space idol when she travels space on tour looking for like treasures to steal to try and restore her home planet. She wants some kind of magical item that will restore her home planet back to how it should be. And then in another disguise, she is just herself. She is Uni. She can turn into like a humany looking girl, or there's like a more like alien-y, cat girly, like kind of like a Skyrim Khajiit kind of thing. She's super duper cool. I probably shouldn't go into too much detail about her because she's full of surprises. I love her to bits. And she has a really good transformation. I like it when she scribbles on her skirt and she goes like bing, 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 bing. It really makes my brain go wee. Like literally the more I think about this season, like the more I'm like, wow, I really love this one. And another note I've got here at the end is I always forget the season does the identity reveal thing. I had to backtrack and think about it for a minute then. I couldn't remember how it happened. But yeah, it's at school again. They kind of get backed into a corner and they have to transform in front of their classmates. This also has a time skip ending. There aren't many seasons that have time skip endings, but this one has one. So it has like two of my favourite tropes in one season. So what more could I ask for, really? I've waffled on about the season for so long, but you should watch Star Twinkle Precure. It's so good. I have a lot of love for this season. I love space. I love magical girls. I love funny little aliens. It's everything I could ask for. We've made it to 2020. We've made it to like what season? What are we on? 17? I can't remember. Healing Good Precure. This season, it was just really unfortunate. The theme is like the environment, and it has like kind of like this doctory sub theme, and like the main character is like chronically ill, and a lot of the plot revolves around her illness and stuff. And I think it's really unfortunate that the release of the season coincided with COVID outbreaking. And I can't believe there are people who think that they intentionally released the season to line up with COVID. Like, do you know how long production of a show takes? How on earth would they know that there would be a pandemic in time to make a whole Precure season and air it, you know? Cure Grace. I have her doll up there of her. There she is, Cure Grace. I love her to bits. Look, she's here. She is somewhere on my wall. She's here as well. I love Cure Grace so much. She is a fantastic pink lead cure. She, like I said before, she's like chronically ill, and like a lot of the series we see her battling with her chronic illness and trying to like get on with her life and recover. And I don't actually want to spoil this one. I can't bring myself to do it because it's so cleverly done, and like this, it's like genuinely so shocking when like this big thing happens and her illness comes back and gets worse, and it's like, wow, they really like pulled all the punches with this one. And her whole thing is like she has to learn to stand up for herself, kind of, in a way. So there's this villain called Derusian. He sucks ass. He is a real pain. And she has to kind of stand up to him and go, no, I'm not going to let you take advantage of me. I'm not going to let you manipulate me. I'm not going to let you gaslight me. She is awesome. He is a real piece of work. And he tries to manipulate his way into using her for his own gain to make him more powerful, and it would be at the cost of Cure Grace's own health and her like her well-being. And she stands up for herself. She said, no matter what you do, you don't deserve it. You have made my life hell. And good for her, honestly. The other cures in this season are Fontaine. Her name is Chiyu. Her family run like a traditional Japanese inn. She's again a traditional Japanese girly. She does sports, which is interesting. I think she does like athletics or something. I know she does like a lot of like track event stuff. She does the high jump or long jump or something. She is really sweet. She has her partner fairy is a penguin, so I love that. I love penguins. Peggy Tan is maybe like one of my favourite fairies in the whole franchise, purely based on the fact he is a little cheeky little penguin. And there is Cure Sparkle, whose name is Hinata. She is light, and she is really fun, bubbly. She's like super duper like neurodivergent coded again. She is really fun. She's a character I would die for. So like, because of the pandemic, obviously a lot of episodes of the show seem to kind of get cut out. Like they weren't able to air them because the production team just weren't able to finish certain episodes or something, from what I remember. And I think that's why people kind of put this season down and underestimate it and say it was a bad season. I have a lot of love for this season. I binged this one so fast. It's so much fun. It's really like it deals with a lot of heavy and mature and dark themes, like the environment and like pollution. It teaches you like a lot about like you should be looking after the earth, and obviously there's like all the story with Nodoka's illness, and like there's a lot of struggles that the characters go through in this series, and I think it was all dealt with so well. I think the characters are very well like nuanced again. The mid-season cure is Cure Earth. She is incredible. She is technically kind of the first adult cure, but not really. She is born from the earth, just like with everyone's powers. She is like a kind of like a spirit born with like, I can't explain it very well, but they're in a real pickle kind of in the mid-season, you know how it is, and they use all of their powers. The fairies use all of their powers. There's this place called the Healing Garden, and that's what this whole series is kind of about. They have to protect the Healing Garden from being destroyed by pollution from the earth. And there's like the queen of the garden, she's like this big doggy, she's called like Queen Tiatine or something. And she sends her daughter, who is Princess Latte. She's a little puppy. She goes to find the precure with the little fairies. Peggy Tan, who I talked about earlier, Rabirin, and what the heck is the kitten called? He's called like Nyatoren. And those four all go off to the earth. And Latte, whenever something is starting to like pollute the earth and the bad guys show up and they start causing like bad things, and she starts like coughing and sneezing, and the little like glowy heart on her head starts turning yellow instead of blue. I've kind of gone off on a tangent here. I really like this series, and like I like everything that it does. So Latte's mum is the queen, and she was also once a precure partner fairy kind of deal, and they have like this statue of like this legendary precure in the Healing Garden. And I think how it happens is like she's praying to the statue to help the precures, and then like the spirit of like the legendary precure is reborn from the earth into Cure Earth. But like while she like kind of has the body of an adult, she's like mentally like a little child who knows nothing about the world, and she doesn't know what traffic lights are. She doesn't know the rules of like anything, and the Cures kind of have to like keep an eye on her, and it's a laugh. I really like Cure Earth. And her design is gorgeous. I really like her a lot. This series is like God's most underrated masterpiece. The fairies, something I liked about them is that they are really compelling little characters. Like Rabirin is like such a fierce, supportive friend to Nodoka, and Peggy Tan has so much going on with him. He's like really conflicted and believing in himself, and he believes that like maybe Chiyu deserves better than him, and maybe he needs to change, and he goes through a lot, and I love him. And Yatoran is just a little silly dude. And Latte is like this little puppy. She goes wah wah, and she transforms Cure Earth, and she's just a little puppy. I like her, and they have to look after her because she's a little baby and she's a little princess. I like her a lot. 2021, Tropical Rouge Precure, the year that rotted my brain away and made me the person I am today. So the themes in this one were like ocean and makeup and summer and all things tropical and good. And there's the real running theme of like, you've got to do what matters to you right now. And you've got to do what's important. You've got to make the most of life and enjoy your youth. And I love that. I love it. I love it. Kiyosama, look, there she is. She is my absolute blorbo. She is the reason I fell in love with Precure so hard. Like, I'd been a real casual follower of her. I've been a casual follower of the franchise, like, ever since 2016. I vaguely knew, like, what seasons were coming out. I vaguely knew the characters. I kind of understood the concepts. I didn't watch it as it aired. I tried to watch Healing Good as it aired, but I couldn't find any. I didn't have any way of knowing where to watch it or anything, because obviously they don't simulcast these things here in the UK. So I didn't really have any way of watching Precure. They uploaded Healing Good as it was airing to YouTube without subs, so I kind of watched a few of it through that. But I just got confused because obviously I couldn't speak enough Japanese to follow along with it. But Kyo-sama is the absolute creature. She is neurodivergent as hell. She's played by Ai Fairu, who also she was in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. She is some other major character I really like, and it's really tripping me. I can't think who it is. It'll come to me. I hear she's in Chainsaw Man. I don't care for that show, but I hear she's in it. She is a super, super, super cool lady. I like her a lot. And honestly, like, I just sort of fell in love with Kyo-sama, like, the first episode I watched. She's just so bright and fun and positive, and she's just so full of determination and optimism, and her design kind of rocks. I just love the casual summer sailor suit-y design. It's not like too over the top and magical girly, but you can tell she's a magical girl. Again, this series has a super good cast. There's Kyokoro, her name is Sango. Isn't that funny? And she is really sweet. Her whole thing is that she's like cute and gentle. She likes cute things. She likes makeup and she wants to be a makeup artist, and she loves being cute and expressing herself, and she wants to help other people do the same. And like her character arc is kind of like that she has to come to terms with learning to express herself, because she's a bit of a people pleaser, and she just goes along with what other people like at the start of the series to kind of just like be friends with everyone and fit in. And then when she meets Manatsu, who just doesn't care, and she will say whatever is on her mind, and she likes the like most weird, outlandish things, she feels kind of like more compelled to be more herself. And I think that's really sweet. I think a lot of people miss that because they say Sango's really boring and that she doesn't do anything. But I really enjoyed her character arc. Sorry, Frankie. Kyo Papaya. I love her. She's a little silly goofy. She's got her big glasses. She's shy and awkward, but also really funny and has like proper comedy moments. So she just comes out of nowhere with something really bizarre. I love the way that her earrings and her Kyo design like kind of into glasses, and she shoots laser beams from them. That's really funny. I think she is a sweetheart. She wants to be a writer again. That's like a really common thing in Precure, is that they all want to be writers, which is fair enough. And she really likes mermaids, and she gets along really well with Laura the mermaid, which I think is really fun. And like her whole introduction episode was really sweet, and like learning to believe in herself and believe in magic and mermaids and stuff was really nice. And there is Kyo Flamingo. She is my sister's favourite. We cosplayed Summer and Flamingo together. If you missed that, it's in one of my vlogs. It's a super laugh. My sister won an award and I didn't even finish my cosplay, so that's how my life is going as a cosplayer. She is certainly a character, Kyo Flamingo. She reminds me kind of Sailor Jupiter in her introduction episode. They're kind of introduced the same way, like the poor sweet little main character's getting picked on by a group of bullies, and then she comes along and like proper she decks them, and she's like, hey, don't pick on little girls, you idiots, and then they all run off sobbing. And it turns out she's like pretty chill and actually like quite a good friend. She's like, I'm appreciating her more on my second watch, I think, because I didn't really remember she existed much on the first watch, but I definitely appreciate her now on my second rewatch of it, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's actually like pretty, she has a lot of like wit about her. I love that she just has a load of beef with Laura for like no reason. They just don't really, they're just constantly like at each other's throats, and they like have to get along in this one episode, and it's a good time. Laura, the mermaid, did you know she goes through like the Little Mermaid treatment? She gets legs and she becomes Kyo La Mer. Did you know that? She is the funny mermaid, and she gets really good development. She starts off as like this kind of like self-centered kind of brat, and she is literally she's looking for the Precure so she can become queen. The queen tells her, hey, look, if you can find the Precures and save our kingdom from being destroyed, you can be the queen. So she's like, yeah, I'm totally in this for myself and my own gain. And then she goes off, and she is very explicit about her intentions at first. Manatsu thinks it's awesome she's made friends with a mermaid, but Laura's there being very explicit that like, look, you kids are all just pawns to me. You mean nothing. I'm in this for myself and no one else. And then she like she gets better through the season. Like, she learns about friendship and she starts to understand the value of her friends, and that maybe she shouldn't be in this for herself. Maybe she should care about the world around her and the people around her. And she's a really good character. And when she has to go back to the ocean at the end, it's a real tearjerker. The season is vibrant. It is so colourful and saturated and summery. It's a real feel-good season. Actually, the moment the logo got leaked, I knew I was going to love this season. The cast, they all bounce off each other. They're vibrant. There's so much comedy. There's like one episode just devoted to comedy, and this, it wasn't even relevant. It was just a load of little skits all mushed into an episode. The villains, I haven't even talked about them yet. They are all these like evil sea creatures. There is the Witch of Delays. She's like this big old sluggy thing that she don't want to do anything ever. She's like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. This one episode where she's like, I really need a pee, and then she rolls over in bed and she's like, oh, I'll go tomorrow. And that's her whole thing, really. She wants to steal everyone's motivation and get the power to like stop time or something. I don't really understand what her whole deal was, because she was kind of like not really the big bad villain in the end. Her butler turned out to be like more of a villain than she was. She just kind of wanted to see her friend again, who died a long time ago. She was like being held on by like spite and despair and like all of this sadness. It was a really, really sweet ending, actually. And then there are the little funny sea creature family. There's the little baby shrimp girl. She's called Elde. She's just a little kid. She just wants to play. She don't want to be a villain. And she gets sent out to do villain work, and like it gives her all this like moral conflict when she sees all the others like being kids and having fun and enjoying their youth, and be like, man, I want to do that. And she don't really care about being a villain. There's an episode where she pretends to be like this haunted doll in this old haunted house, and Manatsu goes and becomes friends with the doll because she thinks it's actually a real haunted talking doll that had been abandoned. And like, I think that's where like her moral conflict kind of begins. She's a real interesting character, you know, considering she's just a baby shrimp. And then she has, I think they kind of confirmed that they are indeed a family. She has a mum and dad. There's like, we call her the Milfy Sea Slug, but apparently she's a sea cucumber, but she looks more like a slug to me, so I'm going to keep calling her Milfy Sea Slug. She is called Numeri, and she is a doctor, and she doesn't really do a lot else. She's just a villain who goes up to steal the motivation. And then there is the dad. He's a big buff crab man. He's called Chongyure, and his like catchphrase is like, oh, I don't really feel this, and I respect that. I don't feel it any day, man. And there is a legendary Precure in the season. I love that for them. She is called Cure Oasis, and like a lot of the season, like the story is about trying to piece together her past and what she did as the legendary Precure and what happened when, and there's like a whole lot of lore with the mermaid kingdom and her, and the mermaids shouldn't be friends with the humans, and there's just so much mind-blowing stuff in this season. And it's a lot of stuff about like the past and learning about your past, accepting the past. It's really good. And like, again, it's kind of like Hokuto in the like, yeah, you should accept the past and know that it's happened and cherish it if you need, or let go of it if you need. But like, what really matters right now is the present, and that's what this season is all about. It's like finding something you love right now and just going for it full throttle. Like there's Manatsu goes through like this whole arc where like they're doing like a careers day at school, and while like all her friends kind of seem to know what they want to do, like Asuka has her tennis and her sports and stuff, and like Minori has her writing, Sango has her fashion, her makeup, and Laura wants to be the mermaid queen, and Manatsu don't really know what she wants to do. She's just kind of like very ADHD, I just do what I want right now. And she doesn't even know what career she wants to do when she's an adult. She just wants to do what she feels like when she feels like. And I love that for her. She's a girl who's just so full of energy and love for life. I could talk about her for so long. Yeah, it's very tone-wise, it's a lot like Smile, with a lot of light-hearted comedy, characters who are really silly, and then it has these hard-hitting emotional moments when it's needed. My one big gripe with the season is it's a season, you know, there's a mermaid kingdom right there. They could have had so much more like tropical, underwater, aquatic adventures. Like they actually go to the mermaid kingdom in one episode, and they don't even get to turn into mermaids. They just magically are able to breathe underwater with Precure magic, and that sucked. Like, Star Twinkle had a mermaid episode, Smile had a mermaid episode. I wanted them to turn into mermaids. That was my one wish for this season, and they didn't come through with it. And it was right there. They had mermaids, and they didn't go for it, and that really frustrates me to this day. But that's like generally like my only complaint with this season, really. Other than that, I love everything about this season. I'm watching it again at the minute. It's so good. It has such a special place in my heart. My dog is snoring so loud. And Butler, you stink. I hate you, Butler. So we're finally at last year's season. I can finally stop talking after like nearly 5 hours. Delicious party Precure, or should I say disappointing party Precure. I do not like being negative about this franchise. I don't know if you can tell. I love this franchise with all my heart. I don't like saying bad things about the characters. I don't like saying bad things about the show in general. But I really struggled to find any good things to say about this season. I was kind of looking forward to it when they announced it. Because I love Kira Kira Precure a la mode, and I was like, okay, yeah, that was a good food themed season. I'm sure they can pull off another good food themed season. And I just couldn't. I tried so hard to enjoy this series. I watched it weekly, devotedly, until maybe kind of around episode 25 or so, and at that point I just kind of gave up. So wow, the theme is food. I don't know if you guys kind of caught on to that, because they don't talk about anything else in this show. There's like no stakes for the characters. The characters like don't really have personalities outside of talking about food. So there's Cure Precious, Yui. Her whole thing is like her grandma died, and her grandma said food is smiles, and so she really likes food. She eats a lot. She likes rice balls. She has the power of rice or something. And I don't know, they kind of miss a lot of punches with her, because they give us something. They give us like a grasp of her character, and then they don't talk about it again. Like in episode 1, we see her playing football for the girls' team. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm not even on the team. I just came along because I'm really good at football and they needed an extra player. And it's kind of established that she's like this kind of talented girl in like many areas, who likes to help out, and she's got a lot going for her. And it's never ever mentioned that she's good at sports like ever again, which was super weird to me. And then like the whole thing with her grandma, they give us like grasps of it, and then they don't give us enough. And it's just really frustrating, because they do this with all the characters. Like, I think Kyo Spicy is maybe the most developed character in the series. Her name is Kokone. She is a rich girl. So she's called Kyo Spicy. She's blue, and her like character theming thing is sandwiches. Like, how do those three things go together in any world? Like, when the name Kyo Spicy got leaked, I was like, yeah, maybe she'll be like a red cure. Maybe she'll be based on like curry or like something that's traditionally spicy. I was hoping we'd get like another like person of color. I was hoping she'd be like Indian or like something like that, and that maybe this would be like a diverse series about different cultures and different. But no, she's just a Japanese girl who likes sandwiches. So I don't know what they were thinking when they sat in pre-production and went, yeah, this all makes total sense. That really bugs me. And then there's Kyo Yum Yum. She's like, I think she's supposed to be Chinese. Like, her whole thing is like pandas all the time, and her family own a Chinese restaurant, and she likes noodles, and she runs like a Instagram blog thing where she talks about food all the time. And she had like this real nice character moment like early on, where it's like she was picked on for being like too into food and nothing else, but then like they kind of just didn't do anything else with her, I don't think. All of the characters in this series kind of suffer from like doing nothing syndrome. Kokone has some really, really good development, and she feels more like a leader than Yui does, which is kind of sad. So fun Precure lore is that Toei underwent like this kind of like cyber attack while this series was in its early days of airing. So we lost like a handful of episodes, maybe 2 or 3 of them. And I guess important stuff must have happened in those episodes, and they just couldn't make up for what they had lost, because those episodes are gone. They're gone forever. And they were never aired. They've never been recovered, I don't think. There's not even like a trace of what could have happened in these episodes. They're just completely gone. And I don't understand how or why this has happened. But so the mid-season cure in Delicious Party is a redemption cure. She's this brainwashed girl from Earth. She's a student at their school. Her name is Amane. She gets brainwashed into like this phantom thief who steals the recipes. They're like these little fairy food things that make food taste good and make people love food. The bad guys want to steal all of these recipes so people don't enjoy food anymore. So she's brainwashed by the bad guys. They literally never told us why they picked her in particular. There's like never any reason or rhyme behind any of it. And her redemption just came around like that. She just snapped like halfway through and just stopped being bad. It didn't really make a lot of sense. Like, it happened so fast, and I think maybe if we had those lost episodes it would make sense, but it just really didn't. The fairies in this season, they are Pam Pam, a little puppy, Kome Kome, like a little fox thing. There's a dragon. What's he called again? I didn't even write his name down in the notes. I can't remember what he's called. He's a dragon. They're alright. They're a little bit annoying. They have the fairies instead of transformation items, which kind of sucks because I love transformation items. Pam Pam's my favourite of the fairies, but even she is like kind of annoying at times. Kome Kome, again, is one of those things. This series doesn't explain anything. Kome Kome has the power to like turn into a human, and she like grows more and more as the series progresses. She goes from like a baby to like a toddler to a teenage girl eventually. And she has like the power to give the Precure power-ups and stuff, but none of this is ever explained or touched on. Yeah, for a Precure series, this series is really, really bad. They really dropped the ball here. Especially after like releasing like one of the best seasons ever. This was like a massive slap in the face for me. Like, this season is so bad. The mid-season cure was Amane, the brainwashed girl, you know? She turns to cure finale. She has like kind of this moral struggle, like, oh, I don't deserve to be a Precure because I was evil, and then she kind of gets over it, and there's not really a great deal to her character. Her design rocks. I think she's awesome. I like sweets-themed characters, so she kind of serves that. But there's just not much I can say about her. She's got these 2 big brothers. She owns a parfait shop, I think. She likes parfaits. I've got to say something good about this one. So I really like Rosemary. He is like this cool little like gay dude. I think actually canonically they are a they them pronoun user. Precure win. So Rosemary is a cook fighter from the Cookingdom. I don't understand. They're kind of like the royal army, the cook fighters. They have these delicious stones that give them the power to fight. They're kind of like Precures, but they're men, and they don't quite have Precure powers. I never really got my head around what the deal with cook fighters were. But so Takumi, Yui's childhood friend, also gets to become a cook fighter. He becomes Black Pepper. He gets a delicious stone, and he's kind of like Tuxedo Mask. He rocks up and he helps them out a little bit and then vanishes again, and it's like really mysterious, like, oh, who could he be? And then it turns out it's him. So like, kind of frustratingly, the cook fighter thing is actually more interesting than the Precure in this season, and like they seem to be like a lot more fleshed out, and there's like a lot more lore around them, and they get a lot more screen time and development than our actual main characters. And I think that was a real like downfall of this season, was that they didn't do anything with the cures. Okay, so there is this like weird written rule of the season that all the fights take place in the Delicious Field. Rosemary like uses their magic every episode when the bad guys appear to quickly like transport them to this magical place called the Delicious Field. Is it the Delicious Field? And it's basically just this desert, and it's the exact same like desert every single episode. There's like a couple of like cliffs, and it's just all desert everywhere, and it's so bland and boring. Like, one of the most iconic things about Precure is the way they incorporate their surroundings into the fights, and they like kind of like strategize using what's around them, and they're like, oh, if we like climb this building we can smack him from up there, or maybe we can hide there, we can, you know, like the surroundings like make up so much of the action. And when you're putting a fight in this empty desert and there's like nothing for them to like kind of bounce off in this like horrible empty bland desert, like it's just really really boring to watch. Like, you'd think that the fights are maybe like the high point of the season, like maybe that's like a bit of excitement after like, an episode of them doing nothing but talking about whatever the food of the week is, but it's not. Like, even the fights are like just tedious to watch. Like, if the delicious field maybe changed aesthetically to like match whatever like food they were focusing on that week, it would be a bit better. But they are literally in an empty desert with a few cliffs, and they've just got that to go with, and it's just really rubbish. I've just written loads about these. All the like none of the fights stood out to me. I couldn't pick out like what fights were good in this series because they all just kind of blur into one because they're all in the same location. And I understand in theory why the delicious field is used. Like, I understand the idea of this is to protect the world from being like damaged by the fights, this is to protect civilians, but it just doesn't work in practice. Like, they didn't really think out very well. They could have done it so many other ways that would still make the fights interesting, and they didn't do it. I skipped a lot of this season in the end. I gave up on watching weekly, and I just watched whenever people were saying that interesting or important things were happening, which wasn't very often. I've already moaned about the cook fighters being relevant. Black Pepper was really cool. I liked him. I really like Takumi as a character, actually. He's a sweetheart, and I like the little romance thing he has going on with Yui, even though she's kind of like bland. Like, yeah, we like this whole season, it's just like every episode you're like, yeah, okay, we get it, you like food, but like, what else have you got going on in your life? Like, every episode they go, oh, let's talk about this food, and then they go and either eat it at a restaurant or they'll go and cook it themselves or something really stupid like that, and they never do anything like meaningful to their lives. Like I can't expect, Kira Kira is a food themed season, and yet they do things outside of like talking about the sweets and running their bakery. Like, there's that episode where they go to like Awie's fancy party and they help her like be free of her like the shackles of her responsibilities. They do episodes where like Himari has to like be a news reporter and she goes around and builds up her self-confidence. There's just so many little episodes where it's not all about the food, it's about like doing things, and they missed that completely in Delicious Party. The villains didn't really interest me very much. There's Narcistoru. He's kind of like this ugly looking kind of green man. He kind of sets off my symphasia. I think he smells bad. I look at him, I'm like, oh, that's a stinky man. I get this weird smelly and taste like in my I can get this weird smell and taste in my mouth when I look at him. I don't like him. He looks like he doesn't shower. There's Secretary. Her story wasn't interesting enough, actually. She like goes through kind of a redemption-ish kind of arc. There was that stupid like robot thing they brought in after Amane gets like turned into Cure Finale. I can't remember what he's called, Spiritoru or something. I kind of skipped all his episodes. I don't know what his deal was. He was dumb. The twist villain, I don't know how I feel. I think it was kind of dumb. I didn't really like it very much, and it felt like there were no stakes, really. So how I don't care about the season enough to not spoil it. So spoilers, the villain is actually one of the cook fighters. It is a guy who is like Rosemary's like lifelong comrade. He's called like it's something Herbie. He's called like what is he called? It doesn't matter. He's got some kind of Herbie name. He's a cook fighter, but actually he is the big bad of the Bundaroo gang. And I just didn't like this at all. It was just out of nowhere. It was kind of like sloppily. It was predictable. It really wasn't anything special. Yeah, overall this season, like, it pretty sucks. And I don't like the art style, like, at all. There's something about the colours that throws me that I don't like. It's kind of too saturated and weird looking. And I don't like, this is like a really weird nitpick, I don't like their eyes. So, like, usually the art style translates over to the toys, like, fairly well. Like, I've got two of the dolls, and the anime art style looks fine on them. They look really cute, actually. But, like, they've got, like, in Delicious Park, they have, like, really weird, like, jaggedy eyes that they're, like, so sharp and, like, weird looking. They don't look good on the dolls at all, and they don't look good in animation either, to be fair. It's a really, really ugly art style, and I'm so glad that 2022 is over, because what a bloody year that was. That was a horrible, horrible year for Precure. Let's get on to this year. The end is in sight. We're finally on the current year of Precure. We are on Hirogaru Sky Precure. It's a 20th anniversary season, even though it's only been it's only been 19 years, but this is the 20th season, so they're just calling this the 20th anniversary season, and by the time this has ended, it'll be the 20th anniversary for real, so it's fine calling this the 20th anniversary, I think. So this is a really interesting season so far. We're only like, as of right now, I believe we're 12 episodes in. I'm gonna have to Google this, but it's a really, 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 really good season so far. Okay, so we're currently 13 episodes into Hirogaru Sky Precure, and like a lot has happened so far. It's a crazy, like, really unpredictable season, and I'm loving this. So they're doing a lot of like firsts for the season, for the series, for the franchise even in this season. So we've got our first ever lead cure who isn't pink or pink coded. So the first time ever is a blue cure who is our lead protagonist leader character. We've got our first ever proper, like, genuinely an adult. So Cure Butterfly is 18 years old. We've never had a pre-cure who's older than, like, what, 16 or 17? So she's the first legal adult pre-cure. We've got our first boy pre-cure. We've got Cure Wing. He is amazing. He is a little sweetheart. I will go into more about him later. We've got so much going on in this season. It's absolutely fantastic. The themes of this season are obviously the sky and heroes. Heroes is a massive thing. So Sora, Cure Sky, our lead cure, her whole thing is that she wants to be a hero, a true hero. She carries around this notebook and it's called a hero book, and she takes down all her little notes in there about her journey to become a true hero and what a hero means to her and what qualities make her. It's really good. And there's like lots of little nice things dotted around the season about like what being a hero means and how like you can be a hero in such simple yet like really meaningful ways. And she's just such a, it's like if My Hero Academia was like actually good, if like there was any reason to enjoy the characters in that show. Like she really embodies what like the desire to be a hero is all about. And like, oh, hello there. She is like such a genuinely like brilliant character. She's constantly like looking out for others. She puts others before herself. She thinks a lot about everything, and I love her whole like, she's kind of a fish out of water. She starts off in Skyland. That's where she's from. It's the magical world up in the sky, and then she goes off to rescue the kidnapped baby Princess Elle, and they fall through like this wormhole and end up in Earth. And she's like like I said, she's like a fish out of water on Earth. She knows nothing about this world because Skyland is kind of like medieval-ish. They've got like no technology and it's all like just magic, and they ride birds and there's castles, and like she dresses like a medieval peasant, which is really funny. And she comes onto Earth and she's like, whoa, this must be a magical land, because they've got like all this tech and cars and she's never seen any of this stuff before. And it's really funny watching her adjust to life on Earth. And she meets Mashiro, who becomes Cure Prism. She's a sweetheart. She is quite full of self-doubt. She's a little lovely girl. She thinks she's not like strong enough, but she learns that her strength is her kindness, and that being kind is like the best kind of strength you can have. I think she's so good. She is a really good friend to Sora. She helps her learn about life on Earth. Then there is Wing. I can say so much about this little dude. He is a little orange magical bird. He's from what they call the Puni bird tribe. He also fell to Earth through the wormhole in a storm, like just before Sora fell to Earth. So he's also from Skyland. And his family all traded their ability to fly for the power to turn into human. So he goes, poof, he turns into this little boy. He is really sweet. And because he can't fly and all the other birds can, he is obsessed with learning how to fly. He reminds me of Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog. He really wants to learn how to fly. He's obsessed with aerodynamics. He reads all these books. He's got like this special room in the house full of like airplane models and books and like flight charts. He's so cute. And he wants to also like be like a knight to the princess, and he's very like virtuous, if that's the right word. He has very strong morals. He's a little bit like shy and unsure of himself, but he is fantastic. I adore him with all of my little heart. I can't wait to see more of him. And then there is, so we're 13 episodes in, right? And there's no sign of Cure Butterfly. We've just had the episode listing for May come out. We've got 4 more episodes this month, and she is not debuting in any of them. So we're going to be, what, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 episodes down, and she's still not going to be debuted. So, like, she's near enough debuting in, like, mid-season Cure kind of territory. It's fine, because we know she isn't the real mid-season Cure, because we've had leaks. But it's really, really weird to me how they're pacing it this year. Like, what? I don't understand. I know Cure Fortune debuted quite late in the series in Happiness Charge, and I do wonder what they are playing at with her, because they were trying to keep it under wraps for the first few episodes that she was going to be Cure Butterfly, and now they're like, it's just out there and everyone knows that she's going to be her. So I don't understand what their goal is here. Either way, I am like super excited to see how she's going to become Cure Butterfly. She's awesome. She's this like real hyperactive, high energy. She is training to be like a nursery teacher. She's really sweet. She's like a big sister kind of role to the character. She's wise, and I really like that she's like, youth, when she looks at the others, even though she's only like, what, 4 or 5 years older than them. That's like truly what being an adult is all about. And she is awesome. She looks like Ran from Aikatsu, which is really funny, because Sora also kind of looks like Aoi Aikatsu. So it's like we nearly have the whole trinity in this season. I love this season so much. I don't care much for Kabaton. I found him really, really annoying for like the first few episodes. I liked him. Right, so I'm like kind of like a vivid Kabaton hater. I've not liked him at all. I think the fart jokes are not really that funny. They didn't need to do it more than once. He's just really kind of annoying as a character, like as pre-Cure villains are. And it was really weird to me that they kind of didn't even establish like any other villains until recently. Like no other villain has been cited, and like we've only really had a glimpse of him talking to like the big bad boss, which is weird. And as much as I don't like him, in the last episode where Sora defeated him and he kind of like retired from villainy, it made me feel like a kind of respect for him, because his whole thing was being really obnoxious and being like, look at me, I'm strong and I'm like really powerful, I'm big and buff and you're just weak and pathetic little girls. And then when Sora defeats him, he's like kind of being sucked up by whoever the big bad boss is into like this tornado, and we think he's gonna properly like actually get murked. And then Sora like dashes in and she grabs him and knocks him out of the whirlwind, and she saves him, and she goes, it's just the right thing to do even though you're my enemy. And he's like, wow, that's what true strength is. Like, maybe I was the weak one all along. I felt like a kind of respect for him for finally like having that kind of cognitive power. I saw people online complaining about Sora saving him, and that's really, really dumb, you guys. Like, oh, you shouldn't be teaching kids to help people who have been bad. But it's like, it's just silly because we've had so many like villains be like saved even though they were bad in the past. So why are we all suddenly kicking up a stink about this one now? Like, yeah, he like really sucks, but I don't think his heart was like ever truly in it being evil from the start. He had like all these moments in the series where he like sits at the noodle bar and he like moans to the owner about his job and his boss, and you can tell that he's not really fully invested in being evil. He's just kind of doing it because that's his job, and now that he's like free of it, he seems like he just wants to have like an honest like comic relief kind of life in the city. So good for him. There's my notes are all from like quite early on in the series. Like I I wish they'd introduce more villains, but we are getting a new villain next week by the look of things, so I'm super excited about this. Agaha is super lovable. She's just so fun. She drives a Hummer and she's just mad. She does all these crazy things, like in the training episode when they're training to fight Kabaton, she like makes them go stand under a waterfall and do karate and stuff. And it's clear that she is not the most sane of them all. The dynamics between the characters are so good already, and we're only like a few episodes in. Like each pairing has a real fun, unique dynamic. Like there's Sora and Mashiro, and you can tell they're like destined to be together. Like they have this really strong, amazing bond. They just click, and they're like fated. It's awesome. There's a lot of stuff about fate this series, and like their friendship is like shown to be fated. Then there is like the dynamic between like Tsubasa and Sora, and that is also really super fun because they've kind of got like this like little brother big sister thing going on, and she's just super supportive of him and always interested in what he's doing, what he's got to say, and he looks up to her for her heroism and for like just how honest and out there that she is with herself. And then there's like the dynamic between like Agaha and Tsubasa, and like Agaha tries to be like a big sister and she's like super out of touch, and like they've got this whole like introvert and extrovert thing going on between them, so they don't really get on that well. Their personalities really clash, but they come together when they really need to. And again, it's like a real fun sibling thing going on, but she's like a super out of touch big sister. Like she probably like sends him memes about Fortnite and he's like, I don't even like Fortnite. I think she tries so real hard to be down with the kids. She's like, yeah, man, what do 12-year-olds these days like when she's talking to him? And she probably like goes and does like lame Fortnite dances and shows him TikToks that are really like outdated or something. I don't know. I think there's like a real fun like found family dynamic. I love found family, and that's really what they're going for this season. All these like these outcasts and these like childhood friends. I forgot about that. Agaha and Mashiro are childhood friends. They used to be neighbours or something. So they've got like the big sis, little sis dynamic. They're really good friends. They're tight. They've been together for like ever. Agaha would like kind of die for Mashiro, which is understandable. The transformations this season are so fun. The music gets me so hyped. It's animated beautifully. The fights, thank God, we don't have like the delicious field anymore. They're really dynamic. I think they seem more physical than usual. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but there's like a lot more like proper like hand-to-hand combat and stuff like that than there has been in the past few series. I don't know if maybe Toei are kind of testing the water with being more physical again, because Tropical Rouge also had some like proper hardcore physical moments. I like that my last note for the season is just, we all wanted Kabaton to die, but alas, Pure Sky has her morals. I don't know how to expand on that. I think I talked about that earlier. So this is the 20th anniversary season, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with it. I hope they bring back cameos like they did in Hakuto, like maybe the other Cures will come and fight with them. They're kind of doing a similar thing to what they did in Happiness Charge, where they have messages from the Cures at the end of the episodes before the ending. This is kind of one of my gripes with the series, actually. I loved it in Happiness Charge. Each character had like a proper like, hey, thank you for watching for the last 10 years. I can't wait to see where the franchise goes, and thank you for always supporting us. It's like, it was always like an actual message before the episode. But with these, it's like they just pop up before the ending and they go, hello, today it's me, and then they say their catchphrase, and then that's it. And I don't know, it's really disappointing. It doesn't feel as like it doesn't feel as like interactive or like as personal or like as intimate, you know? I don't really know how to express it, but I think they definitely did this a lot better in Happiness Charge than they are this year, so I really hope they pull out some more stuff out the bag. While we're on the topic of the 20th anniversary, I was going to make this a separate video, but screw it, let's just do it now. There has been so much stuff for the 20th anniversary announced that it's insane. So we're getting the spin-offs that I mentioned earlier. We're getting, it's called Adult Precure, Power of Hope. It's a sequel to Yes 5 Go Go. It's about the Yes 5 Cures living their adult lives. That's all we know so far. And then there's also going to be an adult sequel to Mahosukai. We've got nothing on that. We've got no visuals. We've got no proper details. We just know it's in the works. So that's one cool project for the 20th anniversary. We've got Precure All-Stars F. We haven't had a Precure All-Stars movie since Hokuto, if I'm not mistaken. Because I don't know if they've just not been able to pull them off or what. But this year we're finally getting an All-Stars movie again after like 5 years. Oops, my phone went into low power mode there. It was on 100% when I started. I've been talking all day about Precure. But yeah, I'm going to try and wrap this up real quick. We're getting All-Stars F. We're finally getting every single Cure to ever exist in a movie. Hopefully Cure Echo will come back because I love Cure Echo. We've also got a stage show with all male Precures that's debuting in, I want to say, the fall. I don't know why I said fall. I've been reading the announcements too much. We call it autumn here in England. So we're getting, it's a live action like musical dancing stage show. I think it's called like Dance Magic Precure or something like that. It's 5 different Precure boys. They're all based on a different dance style. There's a pink, there's a yellow, there's a green, a blue and a purple. Big win for green Precure fans because we haven't had a green Cure since Cure Milky. And we don't really get them very often, do we? So again, it's something we don't have a lot of details on. We just know it's going to be a stage show, so I'm really interested in what that could be. We've got tons and tons of merch this year. Like we've got like reruns of old discontinued merch, like the little Lego handy figures. Those are getting reruns. I think they're making reruns of like the little Sim type plushes. We've got like special limited edition like fashion dolls of Cure Black and White, though I don't like them very much. Their faces are a bit weird. But other than that, they're really pretty. Obviously, we've got the Hirogaru Sky merch. We've only in May, like right now. Like this is like such a mad year for Precure. I can't wait to see what other things are going to be announced as the year goes on. And that is all I have to say about this godforsaken franchise that's taken over my life.